There we go. All right. Welcome to another edition of Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting. I'm your host, DJ Impact, and I have here. Oh, who's that? Is that me or is that? That seems to happen all the time, doesn't it? I got Simon Street with us here, and Matt Michaels. Our other members are doing what they do, with birthdays and all types of things happening. So, we let them off. But we're here, and we're happy that you are here with us. If you were with us live here on the live stream, the comments is open. Feel free to hop in and put your comments in at any point. And if you're listening to us on our podcast, we appreciate you for downloading and subscribing. So with that, man, it's great to see both of you again. I mean, after we had our little Thanksgiving, we still had a bunch of programming for everybody, but we haven't had any wrestling talk. A lot of wrestling been going on, and what better way to kick it off than with War Games that happened not too long ago. Guys, I mean, NXT, they never fail. They always do a really, really good job. They kicked off with the women's War Games match. What would you guys take on that? Well, seeing the takeoff of women's, Dakota Kai start off with Amber Moon in the ring, and it just moved on from there.
The women started off, War Games 2020, just great, steamrolling. Some things that I appreciated from the women's was utilization of just War Games in general. I mean, they spared no expense of grabbing shit under the ring. It's like every person wanted to grab some shit under the ring. But I liked how they utilized as many, I hate to say gimmicks, but that's what it was, of utilizing to make the match exciting. I do like that for as much as every year they let us know what the rules are of War Games. The one thing that you notice throughout the whole night is War Games doesn't officially start until everybody's in the ring. And I thought that was really cool that there was a spot where, side note, if ever you need someone to make sure no one gets in your home, Gonzalez is the woman to do it, because she held that door shut and didn't let Io Shirai get in at all. But finally, when she did get in, boy, did she get in a way. Trash can on top of the head, jumping off the top. I'm just going to say.
Yeah, what was that, man?
That was amazing.
They called that a human bomb. Putting a trash can over your head and just jumping. I could never do that. I just couldn't.
Well, let's face it, though. Like, could you go up there and just jump in general, right?
Well, I mean, that would be tough. That would be tough. But
now do it blinded,
right?
With it being metal.
I was like, no, this is not about to do that.
Yeah. I mean,
well, but you got to remember too, though, that's one good thing about when you work with enough people. You have 7 people catching you.
Sure.
So that's good. And B, when you work around people that you trust, as everyone should trust, because they're all coming up together in the same system.
Yeah.
Then you can try crazy shit because of the fact that, everyone's got your back. The more devastating thing was when Shirai when Dakota Kai came down on that garbage can.
Right.
That garbage can was not coming off of her.
No, it wasn't.
I know.
She was trying to pull.
Yeah.
I don't think they planned that. Like, oh Jesus, that's tough, man. She took the most brutal fucking shit in this match.
Absolutely.
Final spot as well, going through that ladder. After having gone through both of those trash can spots and then going through the ladder.
Yeah.
Damn, man.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely took one for the team.
I was happy with the finish, though. I really was happy with the finish. I think some standouts from that match was definitely Raquel Gonzalez. She's actually, they're giving her more time, and you're really starting to see her come into her own. But also, too, Toni Storm. Toni Storm got in that match and was just handling fools. And I appreciate what those women did for War Games. The women stepped it up, and I want more.
And shout out to the new tank that Shotzi came out in, man. That tank was dope.
that picture that they took with all the girls on it, that is a picture I hope somebody took a shot of and did it up through Photoshop, whatever they have to do to make that look good, because that was a beautiful shot right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was a great way to start the pay-per-view tonight. And you know what I thought was funny when I put in my notes too. Indy Hartwell, she locks the gate, and of course she puts the key in between her chest, which there's nothing but men referees out there. Now maybe if there was like Jessica or one of the other female referee, I'm sorry, I don't know her name, was
she was in the ring. Yeah.
Yes, she was in the ring, so it's like no one could go up to her and just, here, give me that. So
he even said, she said, "You want it? Come get it."
Right.
Like, I don't want none of that.
I thought that was pretty dope how they did that. Really good writing there. So shout out to Indy for playing her part well there. But let's move on. Also, we have the Tommaso Ciampa Timothy Thatcher match. I think we're already to the point where Timothy Thatcher has grown on us, right?
He's grown on me.
Do we agree with that? Yeah.
He's grown on me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like him when he first came in. I wasn't sold on him. It's not that I didn't like him. I wasn't sold on him.
Right.
But he is every bit of, just your worst wrestling coach ever. Like the nightmares of when we were in high school. If you had a wrestling coach that you probably feared or something like that, that's Timothy Thatcher.
Right. Yeah. Man, the matches are just so brutal, man. I mean, and it's crazy. Like his ear is bleeding, and it's like now it even seem like it's fading him. I guess he's just on the adrenaline from that point. But
did you see the look he did on the camera though? Did you see the look he did with that camera? Like when the camera panned to him, his ear was all bleeding. He was like, that crazy and that
right.
I couldn't do it, but he did it perfectly.
Yeah, it's remarkable to think that the first match, you had the two rings, the cage, the weapons, and 8 people, and it was just fucking brutal.
Yeah.
These two men did the same thing
yes.
with just them.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that says a lot when you can, have the extremity of just absolute. It makes it feel like there's more at stake. And that's a big thing that you lose when you just are going through a match. When people say nacho match, it's not necessarily because of the personalities or characters, but it's a lot of times because what you've seen from that feud build up or that build up for a match or non-build up of a match translates to you're not really interested because you haven't found something to be invested in. And this was a match that easily could have been overshadowed and overlooked and totally forgotten, but they stepped it up.
They did. Yeah, I mean, they definitely put on a good match there. And to be honest with you, although I felt that Tommaso was going to win it. At some point I was thinking, well, maybe he isn't here. Yes, this could be, Timothy's time, but he's definitely a player. It's not like he's not ready to be elevated to a higher level than where he's at. It's just great seeing that type of style of wrestling because, for that he's actually brought that style and they are going along with it because it's not what you normally see. And he does it so well. And everyone he competes with adapts to that style, which is great too, because that could be difficult for other people, So shout out to them. We had Dexter Lumis and Cameron Grimes. Oh man, well, what's your take on that, man?
This was actually not surprising, but I'm going to say surprising that it was as entertaining than what I pegged it would have been. What started off being like at first I was like, you know what, kind of seen this before, but okay. It started getting really, really exciting. Obviously Cameron Grimes' character brings a lot of hijinks to any match he does. I mean, the man starts off talking about, I brought my own strap. I don't need that. Got a strap. But what I appreciate is that later on, he utilized the velvet bag, which Bad News Barrett told us it was velvet, so he upgraded it from a burlap sack to put on the eyes of Dexter Lumis. And if Sin City Steve was here, he would say thank you because he appreciates the continuity. It's something that they've been talking about in NXT is the eyes of Dexter Lumis staring through your soul, shaking the core of you. So I thought that was cool. The match was exciting. I've seen a whole bunch of strap matches, and this one definitely. People was getting yanked around like baby dolls on a string. it was a good match, very good match.
When you talk about the bag over his head, it was really it was funny to watch him. Like Loomis was literally like pulling the mask back down because the sack wasn't fully, it wasn't tightened or anything.
Right.
So through that whole spot until the thing comes off, he has to keep it on, and you have to figure that he's got one arm in a strap and his other arm is consistently having to pull that stupid hood back, so it doesn't fall off.
Right.
Those are the little intangibles that you have to give it to these guys who you're not really anticipating that happening, but for whatever reason, something happens. So a lot of times what will happen is you'll just kind of, hey, if it falls off, it falls off.
Yeah.
And then there will be some people who will be, harsh and say, well, it wasn't realistic because he was keeping it on. And it's like, well, but you got to give, you got to give credit for that kind of stuff instinctually playing off because it's a play, it's what you're trying to convey more so than is that real,
Right.
The idea of, someone putting a sack over your head, it's going to have to be tied off. So it just shows the interesting dynamic of doing just little things to keep it realistic. And you have to say that Cameron Grimes, he is a throwback to like a Michael Hayes type. He's kind of that Freebird type. Part of it is having the Southern background, but a lot of it has to do with the cockiness and the swagger that's conveyed.
Yeah.
And what you love to see, you see it all through this whole show. You saw it with McAfee, you see it with Candice, you see it with Gargano. there is a desire to see these heels, because their chicken shit heels get what's coming to them.
Mm-hmm.
And the brilliance of it is, when you get that payoff and you see, Cameron Grimes looking like he's just, he's getting the better side of Loomis,
Yeah.
and then just getting his ass handed to him, to end the match. And that takes a lot of skill, man. It's not just going in there and losing,
Right. Like it was awesome when he just literally took the chair and just sat down and just pointed up to the moon. Didn't say to the moon, but he was just like, in his mind, I got this already beaten. I got it together. So
you got to remember too, what makes a good wrestler is a wrestler who's going down to the ring confident that they're going to win the match.
Mm-hmm.
What makes a good heel is their confidence that they're going to win the match because they're smarter than the other person. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Dexter Loomis versus Cameron Grimes. If you put 10 people in a room who don't know these people and look at those two guys
mm-hmm.
and ask them point blank, in a fight, who wins?
Mm-hmm.
10 people just on eyesight alone are going to pick Loomis.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to have a good ability to have something like that bag with the strap that he bought himself. He has a plan. And he executed that plan. And when he sat in that chair, that's part of this whole, when things are going good for a heel, it looks like you should hate them because they look so cocky. They look so confident, so arrogant. But when they're going bad for a heel, that's when it pays off, because you should be going crazy as a fan member. And damn, man, that, again, you can't say enough about how much a guy like that helps elevate everyone around them.
Right. Absolutely. Great match tonight. Very entertaining to watch those two. But right after that match was the North American Championship match. Mm-hmm. And man, you had Leon Ruff, Damian Priest, Johnny Gargano. Man, I loved it. I like how Priest just did not want to touch Ruff. Get out of my way, dude. Let me handle this. Let me take care of this. And Leon's like, man, I got something to prove here. I just can't be sitting around letting you beat up a Gargano. And I just like that constant, until it made Priest do something he didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. What's your guys' take on that particular match?
Well, it's definitely a big part, is like you were saying, is just there was a story that was continued to be told, as we saw weeks prior, obviously. But those small moments, those were what made this match special, especially between Damian Priest and Ruff. How he was telling, like, Ruff was on the top, and he was saying, "Look, no more chances."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he was saying it like a big brother type of thing. And that's what he's been through this story arc this whole entire time. So again, kudos for, consistency and continuity, because those things, I think a lot of us, we look forward to with these matches. It adds some fat to it. But as far as the match, it's always athletic. One thing that I'm seeing a lot, not just in NXT, who's been doing it for a while, and I'm sure wrestling's done it forever. It's nothing new, but it is really utilizing and perfecting the art of having one big guy and two small guys. I've seen a lot of matches, and it's exciting to watch when it's done correctly. And you obviously saw Damian Priest doing a lot of, bouncing back and forth, especially when the Scream Goons came into play. I don't know what they're officially called, but the guys with the Scream masks came on. Damian Priest was doing a lot of heavy lifting, jumping over both sides of the ring. I think he jumped over both posts of the two rings side by side at one point to knock out those guys. But even still then, it was good how even the camera work where he did that, came back, and Johnny Gargano had came out and he did something, but he basically turned around and he was facing outward the camera. And then you see Leon Ruff jump up off the top turnbuckle and do a frog splash. And he was like, oh my gosh. So it brings back for the viewer, like this is a three-way match. You know, Leon Ruff is really looking to make sure he retains his title. And Johnny Gargano is just going to be this freaking chicken shit heel tactics as he always does. But I mean, the match was really, really good. And that's what I'll probably keep saying, but I'll say it only once. The whole night, consistency across the board with every match. And this match was no exception, just solid. And, you know, awesome match. That's all I can say.
You got to think too, every single one of those ghost faces had to get a COVID test and go through the whole process to literally just go out there and do that. And you know, it's a number of the NXT guys or local talent who are, you know, chopping at the bit to do something like that. So you know, it gave it a depth, but it also created that moment of reveal that it was Austin Theory.
Right.
And putting Theory and Gargano together potentially, if that's where they go with this, could be fucking dynamite.
Yeah.
But Theory need to shave that mustache though. He need to shave that mustache.
Why?
You're not feeling it?
Look, first of all, if I can't handle damn mustache, Austin Theory can't handle damn mustache. It didn't look good on him. He looked like he has, like, I don't know, just didn't like the way it looked.
So here's the thing, and this is why I asked why. He's a heel.
Yeah, that's true.
It bugs you that thing looks like
it looks horrible.
That's what it, you know, what a good heel is not necessarily someone who says something or does something, but someone who can convey to you one thing, to me another thing, to another person another thing, that really irks you about them. And you just prove that that's exactly what this guy can do. You know, and this is the same thing with Gargano. Gargano is good as a heel because of the thing that, you know, as entertaining as he is, there is still something that you can find that you can just go, this guy's a fuck, man. And that's a key to really having a consistent hate quality. You know, Cameron Grimes, look at the fact that he does that consistently by saying to the moon, and, you know, and the way he's dressed. You could pick one thing, you know, from different people are going to pick different things from him.
Yeah.
And we're seeing this play out wonderfully. And one of the reasons too is because NXT is very smart when they do their shows, 5 matches.
Yeah.
That's it. 5 matches. Very simple. And everyone has to be as good as the next match.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I agree with you on that one, because a lot of the heels in NXT on the Simon Street Schmuckometer are pretty freaking high. Because I will tell you, as you said that mention, I mean, Austin Theory already was irritating the shit out of me, just because he just poured out extra cockiness. Like, really, bro? But again, it's perfect, because now that mustache, I'm gonna pick on that damn mustache every time I see him, hoping somebody cut his ass. In fact, I want a cut mustache match. And if it does happen, it means somebody was listening, because that's the most ridiculous shit I've ever come up with.
On Wednesday night, Gargano was at the commentator table, and he was like, "Yeah, you know, Leon Ruff, he's a good joke. He's a good joke. Like what do you call a fake noodle?
Yeah,
an imposter."
Hey, but did you see how he followed up later? He says, I know it's a dad joke, but what do you call a dad joke? It's a parent. I was like, dude, I was awesome.
Dude, he was on fire, man.
He was.
And that just shows that, even after his wrestling career, he's going to have a spot anywhere. The commentary table, in the back. He's doing it all right now, and we're seeing it in the early stages. He's doing it.
And you know what? That's for a lot of guys, you got to think that being WWE champion, being on Raw, being on SmackDown is the pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at guys like Ciampa and Gargano and Undisputed Era, what you're seeing is a base that you don't have. I mean, if you call these guys up, you basically are saying goodbye to at least half of those guys, because it won't be the same. They'll get put into, bad gimmicks or whatever. It won't be utilized. There's too much, other people who have higher spots already. NXT allows now for those guys to be around, and hopefully eventually allows a guy like Gargano to transition into an agent role, a trainer role, something like that down the line. So you'll have someone who has made his home in that area and literally been able to have, their bulk of their career and their life spent down there. And I think that's a new opportunity that is different, where people don't have to look at, before, when you looked at FCW, when it was Florida Championship Wrestling, it was just a development territory.
Yeah.
It was there, but it was that passing through place to go on to the next level.
Yeah.
Here, it really can be a place that you don't need to go on to somewhere else, because there's a lot of stuff that you can give right back to it. And that is actually, when you think about all the things AEW has to do to just compete, to be recognized as a bigger company, right?
Yeah.
One of the things is they're, of course, trying to get into training talent, which is good. But at the same time, the likelihood you train that talent, they go onto your show, they're utilized wrong, and then they go on to the other company is high. Here, you're actually seeing where they can retain those people, because there is other opportunity eventually for them. And I think that that's something that wrestling doesn't necessarily always have. And the fact of the matter is that consistently you're seeing the level of performance on these takeover shows, that the reason people respond so well to them is because it's a simple formula.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
and yeah.
It's just it's so refreshing to have a card where you have bookending War Games matches.
Right, yeah.
And every single match in between did not make you go, well, that was good, but it wasn't a War Games match.
Right.
So I think everyone did their job spectacularly.
They did. And shout out to, again, the NXT North American champion, Johnny Gargano. So we'll see him go ahead and reign more parades going forward. Of course, ending the show, the Undisputed Era against Team McAfee. Man, Yeah, I tell you, first off, just what a match, right? So I knew, okay, so I felt Undisputed had to win, right? But at the same time, I'm thinking, at what point, and maybe this shouldn't happen, but at what point, I mean, I guess McAfee doesn't have to win, but he's legit enoughly, I think, to win. I think
McAfee didn't lose.
Okay.
Remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think I see where you're going with
it. Yeah.
McAfee did not lose. They protected him.
That's true. Okay.
He did not lose. And boy, oh boy, that shot of Oni when he's got blood coming out of his ear. It's got blood coming out of his eye and shit. It was just like, these guys, 45 plus minutes. First off, as you watch it, it did not feel like it was
an
hour, right?
Right, not even close.
And the good thing about it was they protected Pat. Pat did some fucking amazing shit that,
right.
I think about it. There are guys who've been in the business for a number of years who wouldn't even dare try to climb up on the cage and do that swanton down.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I mean, they used him in the right way to use him. They had him showcasing in certain spots. And the reason you can do that is because you have three of probably the toughest son of a bitches on the planet Earth in there on his team.
Yeah.
And this is the whole thing about when you have a greener talent, they might not shine necessarily in the ring. It might take McAfee a little longer to, catch on, accelerate, because he's just pretty green to it. However, he's really good on the mic, right?
Yeah.
And the nice thing is that when you have three guys like that who understand that he is there to elevate their game, they're willing to give back and elevate his game. So he makes them look good because he's on the mic. They make him look good because they did all the big work in the match.
Right.
And then Undisputed Era. And you got to look at those four guys and just, it's essentially 7 guys who were working that match.
Right.
It was.
I mean, when they were going each one at a time, attacking each of the members, I was like, wow. It was.
Oh, you're talking about at the end where they had them lined up?
Yeah. I was just kind of like, oh, that was just brilliant.
War Games goes back almost, 35 years.
The 80s, right?
Yeah.
The 80s when the first one came.
Yep. And when you think about it, I tried to rack my brain, and I've never seen that used in a War Games at all, let alone even something like even a cage match itself, right? Where you have the cage right there. You'll occasionally see one-on-one something like, where they're using the cage to put them against it and, hitting a couple moves, but to go boom, 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 it was fucking brutal. There was one moment close to the end, close to the finish, where Kyle O'Reilly was in the corner. They had a camera angle, and you could see Kyle O'Reilly in the corner, and the look on his face was a person who had basically just been locked in a sauna with a treadmill and the treadmill does not turn off.
Yeah.
And you
He
can't
looked
stop.
exhausted. He
Oh
looked
my
exhausted.
Yeah.
It was
He looked
crazy.
exhausted.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind. It blows my
Yeah.
mind what you guys could do.
Well, I will definitely tell you that match did not disappoint, as I think we all expected it not to be, especially where, the UE is concerned. I know I'm not the only person that says if you ever tried to get as close to the equation of the four horsemen, the UE's the closest you're ever going to get. I don't care if you're talking about Legacy, what they tried to do, or the group that Ric Flair tried to form later on with
Evolution.
Evolution.
Mhm.
I think that they looked good like them, but I will honestly say when you really look at a historical reference of the Four Horsemen and you really want to try and get that episodically captured, I think UE's the closest. And maybe I'm too bold to say it, but that's just how I feel every time I see them. I think that, man, they're decorated. They are a brotherhood. And I thought it was great. I thought it was great how McAfee's group presented is the Undisputed Era out of juice. Are they on their way out? And this was a telling story of how they captured it. And yeah, even though he tried to make fun of them, well, I think it was on Wednesday. You're in the back of an old pastrami, what do you say, the old Pizone restaurant. They're too afraid to have you come out and say it was Undisputed Era in your establishment. But it when they did that promo, they talked about, no, McAfee, you should fear us. You should worry about being in the, not to mention these guys probably have more education on war games in NXT era than any of the damn teams. So, I mean, of course they know how to survive in that hostile environment, and they did show that. And a lot of the high spots were amazing. Shout out to McAfee for that high spot where he did the Swanton.
Yeah.
That was amazing. I was a little scared because his feet really hit the ground hard.
Yeah.
I was a little worried, like, bro, you're supposed to have the feet flat, but you didn't do that. But okay. And then that spot where he got pushed in the table, he was definitely stiff on arrival on that one, but it's okay, man. But again, Pat McAfee, it kind of goes to show you that, yeah, you can have a lot of training. You can want to get into this industry, but there's some people that have finesse in certain areas. And I'm not saying that so much his athletic talent is that finesse, but him on that mic, I got to be honest with you. Maybe he just, it's a finesse thing with him. He could just capture that. And, I know we'll talk at a different show about that very topic and what other people have opinions on. But I loved this NXT takeover as I've loved all of them. War Games was amazing from the start of the card to the end of the show. I was literally left. I want to see more. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you guys who are listening to that, check out our 3 count, which will be released on Tuesday. We'll go more into depth with Pat McAfee and actually some words CM Punk said towards him. So check that out. So that was War Games, guys. Overall, good pay-per-view as always. We ended the show wanting more. So that means Triple H and the guys did their jobs. Another big event happened this past week. Winter is coming.
That's why I wore my Game of Thrones shirt, just because the reference came from there. I'm sorry, I had to.
Yeah. I wish, Sin City Steve was on because I actually want to sing my praises to them. The show actually was good. I really wanted to give them props. But let's start off with the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal. That was very interesting. How they just have both guys on both sides. Just when it starts, they just jump in the ring and they start going at it. We don't have to go through 30 minutes of intros, for all of them. So let's just go right at it. What'd you guys take on that particular one? I do like how Inner Circle was just over in the corner, just kind of waiting the whole thing out till it got down to the final. Pretty good writing there. Miro, he looked pretty good. He took out 4 folks in a row. You know,
wait,
not.
Hold
Okay.
on. Before we even talk about Miro and this,
sure,
because we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week.
Okay.
What the fuck was that backstage thing they did 2 weeks ago? It was horrible, man. You know, for a guy that you can make look so good in the ring, they choose to do some of the just stupidest shit with him.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, man. It just at some points what happens is it feels like they make steps forward, but then they make steps back. And I think it's just there's not a lot of long-term planning, it seems. And even though he might look strong in the Battle Royal, yeah, well, that's the whole thing. And he might have looked strong in the Battle Royal, but at the same time, what's your end game? Because your winner is the guy that you've been bringing up and then kind of putting him back down, and then up and then down. He's like a fucking yo-yo. He should be called Orange Yo-Yo.
Orange Yo-Yo.
Yeah.
Well, the you know what, you do have a good point there, Matt Michaels, but you know, AEW did actually utilize this match fairly well to kind of give us some breadcrumbs to some other storylines that, you know, we're looking at, you know, some answers. One being you start seeing a little bit of dissension with the inner circle, you know, with regards to MJF. You know, there was a spot where you had Sammy Guevara, and I think it was who was also on, I think it was Jungle Boy and Sammy Guevara up on the top, and MJF went to go push him off and ended up incidentally pushing Jungle Boy off. He pushed Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara was like, "What the fuck, man? What the fuck?" You know. So I mean, you know, again, consistency. I appreciate it because it's one thing that a lot of people sometimes don't give AEW props on, and they actually did do little foreshadowing, and later on as we talk about the card, how that unfoils. Another thing that I found interesting in that match, which was weird, was when Hangman Adam Page went over. Who saved him? But the what you call it?
It was Dark Order.
The Dark Order. I don't know if maybe I just thought too much of that and it just happened to be at the right place at the right time. But I thought that was a little interesting, a little weird. I don't know if y'all thought the same thing.
They've been working together now for
well, I'm just saying, it's no surprise. I don't watch AEW all the time. I'm just saying, but I just thought it was interesting. I didn't know it came to full circle like that, you know.
Yeah, they've been doing this shit for the last 6 weeks now or so.
Man, I've really not been paying attention.
Well, you do have now MJF and Orange Cassidy. I guess next week or this week, actually, it'll be for the Diamond Ring.
50,000. 50,000. Worth 50,000.
Well, you know, at least they found something for Orange Cassidy because I just thought it was all downhill. I mean, it was pretty much been downhill since his Jericho match. You know, it's like, well, what do we do with him now? So I guess they found something for him to compete in and more likely lose. But, you know, they at least found something for him to do.
Well, if you also heard, too, they said for 1 year, or at least maybe that was just Jim Ross that said that. For 1 year. So the ring for 1 year. I'm wondering, can we?
It's ridiculous. Let's fucking face it. It's stupid. Like, okay, you know, first off, it's what, a $50,000 ring?
Yeah.
Yeah, 50,000. 50,000.
Okay. So if I'm Orange Cassidy and I win that, I'm fucking going to the closest pawn shop and getting rid of it.
Right.
You know, and especially if you have characters that would be that way, you know, and then, you know, you're right. All likelihood, MJF should win that because that would be something.
Yeah.
You give his character in which he doesn't have to have a title, right? He's always got that ring, and for the next year if that's the stipulation. If JR just didn't pull that out of his ass, then that's something that you can play off of and basically help hold him until he becomes a champion. I don't know though. When it's just like, really, you've got an FTW belt that you are seemingly doing nothing with.
Yeah.
And really doesn't mean anything. So you're trying to put confidence behind that. You're trying to put confidence behind this ring. Why not focus on the main shit, right? And that is making, good decisions in your storylines and your personnel and how people are being used, and not just propping people up by all of a sudden giving them a $50,000 ring, because what the fuck, who cares? Right?
Yeah.
In fact, we're conditioned to think of the championship belts as something, because historically the championship belts have gone all the way back to the early 1900s, right?
Right.
The next thing is trophies, right? We've seen trophies. Kids get trophies for playing. It's something relatable.
Yeah.
Who the fuck has ever heard, outside of you winning a Super Bowl or a championship that way, of a fucking ring?
Yeah.
It's like a promise ring.
Right, exactly.
It's like a promise ring.
And if anyone's going to use it, why not Ring of Honor? Because the word ring is in their title. Hey, it's fucking AEW Dynamite. Fucking come up with something that has to do with explosives or something. Think outside the fucking box.
Free pyro for a year.
Well, maybe they could, again, you win the Dynamite Battle Royal or whatever, then you get to blow shit up, why not?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I just
no, I the overall goal of it, I'm like, whatever, but at least the presentation of that match I thought was done well, so I'll give them props for that. And we'll just leave it there. Next, you did have Jericho and Frankie Kazarian match, which I guess Jericho has the Painmaker Story Collection. I thought was interesting. This guy's just making money out of his ass, wherever he comes up with. I just like it. Whatever he comes up with, they say, "Oh, perfect, yeah, throw it up there, yeah, go up there, man, do it." So he's got the Painmaker Story. But anyway, Frankie Kazarian, listen, all the guys SCU, one at a time, eventually get a match. I don't know. It seemed like it really does nothing for him. Frankie's good. Don't. I'm not taking anything away from him, but nothing really never comes out of any members of the group, right? I mean, every time we see them do solo matches, they're good matches, but there's nothing that goes beyond, well, it was a match.
Well, the one thing I can't say for Frankie Kazarian and for pretty much most of those guys in SCU is they're good people to put in a match with, to where at least for me, it's entertaining. And maybe that's just because, I remember Frankie Kazarian whenever he was in TNA. You see what I'm saying? He's always been athletic. He's always been, despite his age, I'm saying? The same thing for Christopher Daniels. I mean, in Scorpion Sky, I still think there's way more left to see what's going to happen with him. I don't think he's even hit his prime yet. But
that's what this whole thing should be setting up.
Yeah, and thank you for landing that right there, because that's what I was literally going to say. I was like, it's good to see those two, Christopher Daniels and Kazarian, basically the story of grooming Scorpio Sky. And eventually, out of nowhere, we're going to be talking about Scorpio Sky week after week after week. And eventually, he's AEW champion or TNA, or not TNA.
How long is that going to take?
Champion.
When he's 50?
I don't think it's gonna be 50. You know what? I'm gonna have. I have a little faith in AEW that eventually they're gonna get around to that little. What are those things that we had in the 80s in the parks that went around and around? It's like a merry-go-round. It's like a flat surface. You had rails. What's that shit called? What was that called? They don't have them in parks now. It's too dangerous. What is it called?
Yeah, I forgot what those are called.
I forgot what they're called. But anyways, the thing that goes around. Eventually, you're going to get around to Scorpio Sky. And I think the next time you see him come around, we're going to see a lot of big things from him. That's just my prediction. But I thought that the match was good. Jericho, and Kazarian, again, AEW took a good opportunity to tell a storyline. I thought it was pretty funny how, at first they were trying to interfere in the match, and all of a sudden MJF comes out with the towel, like he's going to throw it, like he's going to throw the towel. And then, of course, Sammy Guevara comes out and takes the towel from him, and then Chris Jericho thinks it is. And,
So the bottom line of that whole match was, because of the Inner Circle getting involved, are they going to break up? And we're going to find that out this weekend. I don't know. What do you think, Matt Mike? Do you think they're finally going to just kill this whole Inner Circle thing this week, or are they just going to kill a member out of the Inner Circle and keep the Inner Circle going?
Why you got to say kill? You say it so violently.
Oh, well, we'll get rid of then. How about that? Just get rid of the Inner Circle.
Kill him.
He's still on his Impact Wrestling kick with with the wedding.
Kill.
Right.
Here's the thing that really is just, I don't know. So first off, Kazarian and Jericho would have been a great match 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Would have been a fucking tear down the house match.
Yeah.
Now it's fodder basically for just getting along a story plot. And I think that the problem with AEW has been, do I fucking care?
Yeah.
Right? Like, do you give a shit if the Inner Circle, because
right.
What I think they've lost here is the idea that we like MJF, we like Jericho, okay, we like Sammy Guevara, LAX, yeah, they're good. Swagger, whatever. and Wad Load, whatever.
Did you say Wad Load? Wad Load.
Wad Load.
Wow.
That's funny.
But the truth is, I'm not invested. Right? The Inner Circle was something that was at the beginning when they started this show a year ago. It was something to keep a little cohesion, give an elite group. It did its job. Now it's just taking up fucking space, because you clearly saw through the stuff that Jericho and MJF did, it did not make you think about the Inner Circle. You just thought about those guys. The stuff that Sammy did with Matt, you thought about those guys, right? Not once was I thinking, like, where's the rest of the Inner Circle? And I think in a good group, that's what you're thinking, right? To me, they're just together in name at this point. Just fucking end it. Blow it up. Blow it up.
But I don't know. It's interesting you say that, because that leads me to believe that they will break up because of the possibilities of where the fragments of the breakup go. You see what I'm saying? And in particular, I think of, Sammy. Like, where is he? What is he going to do post Inner Circle implosion?
Well, Sammy can hold his own.
Well, I know he can hold his own, but I'm just saying, like, to me, that's more of the curiosity of where do they go. If I feel like it's more important for them to break up to see where everybody goes. I mean, Swagger, we have no freaking idea what he's going to do. He'll probably go back and do a fight or
You'll probably be a bodyguard for Jericho or
something, you know what I mean? Will it also give opportunity for Jericho? Because we talked about it, not last week, but the week before last, we talked about him at some point doing face. You know, would that be an opportunity at some point to do that? Maybe, I don't know.
I still think the smartest move is that you have MJF and Sammy this whole time have been on the same page. And everyone turns on Jericho.
That would be entertaining. That would be very entertaining.
Because Jericho is the only one who like laid down the law. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it lends itself to being a scenario in which they played him the whole time. And now he's, you know, out on your own. You're old news. You're an old man. You're on your own, you know, and he has to have his redemption story as a face.
Yeah.
That would be something that, you know, would be very entertaining. And you also then set up the idea where Jericho can climb the ladder essentially to get back to MJF. Because the last thing you would want, turn him face and then immediately go back into MJF, right? So now you start with him having to, you know, he could keep Swagger, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can have him as his bodyguard or whatever, because you have Wardlow with
Wardlow. You keep calling him Wardlow. It sounds like erection dysfunction.
That's
Wardlow disease.
And so far to me, that's what he's amounted to.
An inerect person in the ring.
But no, I think if you see, you know, Jericho could go against LAX, you know, one of the guys, then the next week another one of the guys, then build up to him and Sammy for a while,
mm-hmm.
which would be, you know, giving Sammy some really nice rub and experience, and eventually getting to MJF,
right?
You know, and then finishing off that feud. But it's, you know, we still got the rest of the show, so
I know. I'm just thinking like, there was a women's match. There was a Dr. Britt Baker and Layla Hirsch match.
That was a good match. Layla Hirsch. I was happy for her. I liked her story. You know, straight out of high school, amateur wrestling background. That she did some time with combat wrestling. You know, I think she debuted 2017, 18ish. I think they were saying. She, for a 4'11" or 5 foot, whatever they said, she was a short little thing. She had some spunk, and she was kicking the shit out of Britt Baker. But unfortunately, Britt Baker put on that amazing, I don't know what kind of submission it was, but then she did the whole, what does she call that move again? Got no teeth or dental appointment. What is it called? But, you know.
Who the fuck knows? Who cares? If you can't even remember it, that's how memorable the shit is that they're doing.
Well, I'm not a huge Britt Baker fan, but I was definitely entertained to watch this young lady. I don't know what her future is in AEW. I don't know if you know.
You just said the big words. I don't know what her future is in AEW. That's their women's division.
But I'm saying you didn't let me finish, because I would like to see her have a spot in the women's division that is still under construction. There's a door, women's division AEW with construction tape on it, TBA.
But the problem to me is that you keep seeing them rotate in people, and they haven't made these commitments.
Mm-hmm.
So how the fuck am I supposed to get invested in someone when I might be seeing her on Dynamite? If I don't watch Dark, there's a good chance I'll never see them again.
Right.
That's if they even use them again.
Yeah.
Well, there was one person that they keep using on a reoccurrence basis that came out after the match, and that was Thunder Rosa, who pretty much just duped whatever it's called, Luthez press Britt Baker, and was just pummeling the shit out of her face. And you know, I know, guys. We talk about this week in and week out. AEW women's division, they're getting there. They're getting there. I have high hopes.
They're not getting there.
They're going to get there.
No, but you just said something about Britt Baker. I don't care for Britt Baker.
Me personally, I do not care for Britt Baker,
right.
But that's a personal choice.
So no, that's fine. But that just goes to show that you are investing your division into someone where, again, it's hard to say that you care for them.
Well, she's also portrayed as a heel, so I'm not supposed to really give a rat's ass.
No, that's the character. No, what I'm saying is, you don't have a lot of women who are getting the airtime, right?
This is true.
Now, if you would have said, "Oh, I fucking hate her. She just says the smarkiest shit. She's just so like better than me, blah, blah, blah." But by saying, I just don't care for her, that just shows that there's no emotional investment.
Yeah, no, there is no emotional investment for her. And even when public opinion would have probably said back when she hurt herself was probably, I wouldn't say the height of her at AEW, but definitely she was getting more airtime on a regular basis, right? Even then, I really wasn't emotionally invested in her. Now there are other people on the AEW women's division that I am emotionally invested or want to get emotionally invested if they show me more. Because you did point out something that is part of why the AEW's women's division has not been able to, a failure to launch is because airtime. And being smart with when they do have airtime, how to showcase that. It just kind of seemed like you said, last minute things. But I do feel that eventually it's gonna click for them. And for me personally, my personal opinion is I saw something in Layla in this match. I saw something in her, and I think a lot of other people, if you start hearing a couple of days from now, are gonna say, okay, I thought she was a little bit impressive. Let's say no name to the public media or the public eye. Want to see more.
But the question is that
are they going to bring her back?
Are you even using her? So what are you developing? That's why with the idea of the NWA title being on there, you were using that more than your own fucking title.
Right.
Yeah, because the only thing you be using your title for is Abaddon throwing up and doing weird, creepy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we also had the Darby Allin with Cody and Team Taz, and with Powerhouse Hobbs. Can you understand? I don't get this. I don't get the whole thing. But listen, if you're gonna have a power team like Team Taz, right? Shouldn't they just? Not only they should have just went through Darby and Cody, but they should just really be a dominant team. I don't understand. Like, what's the point of putting this massive group if they can't get the job done? It's just, I don't know.
I think you're missing the whole point of why it's not working. I feel like the reason why it's not working is because it has more to do with trying to legitimize the FTE? I'm already delegitimizing the damn title anyways. The title that Taz has, because there was kind of fuck the world. Well, I'm trying not to curse that much, but yes. They're trying to legitimize that title because the AEW presents it as it's an actual title to be held in the company, but yet, that's the whole storyline gripe that Taz has. But I feel like this particular match was only to set up what happened after the match. The match probably didn't even really have to take place for all intents and purposes. I felt like it was an okay match, but what happened at the end, was amazing. Obviously, it's what everybody's talking about. You have the icon Sting, comes out, What, Michaels, as you take some of your brew.
DJ, what's your opinions on that?
On Sting? Listen, I'll try not to go too long at it. I didn't see Sting when he was huge in WCW. I was familiar of I was familiar of his name as I was more dedicated to WWE at the time. So I didn't really follow his career. When he got into WWE, of course, he was older in his life, but it was entertaining. I could see why people enjoyed him, and only could imagine how he could have been back if I watched WCW time. At this point, it was like, oh, okay, that's great. You know, that's a huge name. But at the same time, I'm going, well, what is he going to do? Like, what? It was great to see the name, but I didn't associate that with, well, oh, this will be a great match to see Sting go up against whomever, you know, or for Sting to be a part of that. I just didn't. That never came to mind. It was just, oh, that's a great name, you know, to see that, and then from that point, it just went down. So I'm not hating on Sting, you know, from what I was reading to get some stories together. I think I read, you know, Booker T was saying that he felt maybe he didn't get the finish he wanted to get with WWE, and maybe that's true. I don't know. I do wish that at Mania he would have got that win over Triple H, but Triple H is God, the second God next to Vince, so he's not going to let that happen.
Yeah, but
so maybe
I don't think it has to do with wins or losses or anything like that, because the truth of the matter is that there was a path for Sting until Seth Rollins fucked him.
That's true. That's right about that. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yep.
That neck injury was bullshit. It should have never happened, but it happened.
Yeah.
So here's the problem. You're signing this guy to an alleged multi-year deal.
Yeah.
The problem is that you're handing out money, investing in a name. Now, from what I remember of this product coming together, was that it was going to be an alternative to the WWE, right?
Right.
To see matchups you haven't seen, etc., develop talent, give guys breaks who've never gotten it. So now, when we talk about having a little bit of time on the show,
yeah,
you've now taken someone who could potentially have gotten a spot, and you're giving airtime to Sting. Not only are you giving airtime to Sting, but the week before, setting up the whole FTW thing, you had Taz out there and talking for what seemed to be like an hour and a half, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's precious little TV time.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen is this. You are going to get the initial buzz of the name Sting.
Yep.
Okay. You might get some new eyes because of that. You might get some eyes that just happen to be flipping through the channels, haven't watched wrestling in 20 years, and that's a familiar face to them. Okay, that's fine. But for the most part, you've got these fans who are just totally shitting all over the WWE because they see the same goddamn fucking people all the time having championships, blah, blah, blah. So what do? You bring in this guy, and you bring him in the middle of your show, mind you. So it wasn't even the big reveal and go off the air. It was in the middle of the show.
Right.
He comes out, he does stare downs, and then he woos and he goes away.
Right.
And there's a reason for that. And I'll wait till you finish so I can rebuttal you.
Oh, go ahead. No, feel free to rebuttal.
I honestly feel that Sting is not there to win championships. He's not going to be no freaking TNT champion. He's not going to be the AEW champion. None of that. I think his role is going to be very much the sheriff in town. All he's going to do is come out with that bat, and when there's injustice to be happen, that's the extent. Now, that's what's going to be shown on TV, I believe, is that. You're going to see him come out, yes. And where you're saying taking someone's TV time, precious TV time, I agree with you to a certain extent to that, because it is a problem. But I also think that in the background, you yet again are having someone who has been in this business for a long time, who can groom younger talent. And it goes with...
Then have him do it.
Well, he is going
to sign him as an agent.
Oh, okay. I get that, what you're saying, sign him as an agent. Okay. But we're talking about AEW right now, who they're trying to find every possible way to be able to make the most out of somebody they're acquiring. Okay. Because they're also still in a Wednesday night war with NXT. Okay.
They're not in a Wednesday night war. They're in a war with themselves to retain viewership.
Okay, so even if they're in a war with themselves. Okay.
There's a big fucking problem that even with this, which was hyped up as a pay-per-view style event, they still didn't draw past 1 million.
And that's a challenge that they're going to keep having. I'm going to be honest with you. They're going to keep having that challenge. But I'm still, and again, maybe I'm just stupidly hopeful. Okay, like a lot of other people who actually do like the product. Okay, but I am going to say that I still think that AEW actually has potential to really, with some years on it, I'm not unrealistic to think shit's going to happen in 5 fucking years. It's not, but I can tell you, having Sting with that company for a multi-year deal, I'm thinking of the background, and maybe it's just me. I'm thinking of what he's doing in the background. Who could he be helping to train or groom to help? Because there's a lot of veteran guys there.
I will say that once again, then fucking hire him as an agent. The problem for me is simple. You are a company started out of this idea that guys who aren't giving a chance are getting a chance. And now what you're doing is you're using someone of that level in name only, right? Because you're not picking up Sting because he is going to be your champion, right?
No.
God, I hope not.
Please don't. I will be pissed the fuck off.
But you know, the easy joke that was, you know, kind of going around was, you know, did I turn it into an episode of Nitro? You know, you had Shivani. It's been, oh my God, it's been since 2001. Okay, that's fine and blah, blah, blah. But you want the real truth? The truth is that signing him and some of these other moves that they've been making, I love watching TNA right now. Because that's what it is.
Oh, man.
You're watching TNA, and what they fucked up, they are repeating right now. But they're doing it on the network that was WCW. And so it's easiest to just go and just compare to WCW. The truth of the matter is if you go back and you look at how TNA fucked up, you can directly look at Sting, Kevin Nash, Booker T, Kurt Angle. It's like,
and you are right. But you are right. The main event Mafia sounded great on paper, but didn't look great in weeks. And I get that. And they dominated way too much more than they freaking needed to. But I am saying that I believe with Sting, first of all, I'm going to say this. If Sting were to join the Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting just to take over Impact's job and do audio work, let's say Sting does audio work, I'm still fucking calling Sting's name. I'm going to say we got Sting. It's part of the Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting. Even if you never see him on the screen or if you never hear his voice, just to know he's associated. So that's why I kind of felt like they went big in on the name, because it's fucking Sting. We're talking about the icon. Do you see what I'm saying? Not associated with WWE, not associated, although they brought it up.
Well, the only, and again, I think the part of the problem with that, though, is that, again, for everyone who's familiar with Sting, when you associate that name and then you see him, the question is, I'm associating my likeness to him because of what he did in the past. But I'm not looking at him now and excited to see him doing anything with anyone. So if that's the point, then why have him in that capacity? Do you know what I'm saying? As the way that they put the build on him.
Showcase him. So the way they build him and they showcase him is what y'all are saying is a bit of a problem. I'm only merely telling you that why would you not use the guy's name, because it's going to draw a crowd. What you do with them afterwards is going to be probably.
Well, okay. Well, if that's your theory, right, then we will see if on Wednesday night, now
he's still going to show up. You know he's still going to show up.
No. Listen to me. What I'm saying is, let's see on Wednesday, now that the word has gotten out, because they didn't know he was going to show up on Winter is Coming, right? So now that the word is out, that Sting is back on TV, let's see if those numbers are just elevated. Maybe let's see if they even hit the $1 million mark.
Hold on.
No.
I gotta stop you because you guys do that every time. That's unrealistic.
But you just said
that's
that
unrealistic.
You just said the name. You said the name is what's.
But you're taking it 12 steps forward. You're taking it 12 steps forward. What I'm saying is why would, even if it elevates the numbers slightly, it's still better to just showcase his name. Y'all guys do this every time. It's mostly Michaels. It's mostly Michaels that does this. So I'm a little surprised you jumping in now. And
I'm going off what you're saying.
But you're misconstruing what I'm saying though.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Because y'all do this every time with AEW. Y'all trying to make it this astronomical change in what's going to happen with the numbers. It's not going to
listen. Your
numbers like that.
I'm not saying. All I'm saying, Simon Street. You just said that it's the name that you want that's going to have the people there. That's going to build the business. That's going to do.
I didn't say build the business. I didn't say build the business.
Okay.
It provides a buzz.
Okay, so it provides a buzz.
Wait. No. You fucking hit the point that I'm making, and that is this. And DJ, this is around this. They're going to draw eyes because of the buzz, right? You're going to see next week the numbers should go up, right?
They should. We're going to see.
Because they were at 900 some odd thousand, right? So they might crack 1 million, and they might get a buzz for a couple of weeks. But you said the word buzz. That is not a fucking base. That is not a base.
But I never said it was a base. But I never said it base with regards to
why bring them in?
Because the name is Sting. How do you bring in Sting quietly? How do you bring him into a company quietly?
No,
I'll wait.
No, the question is why bring them in? Why? Outside of what you said, training, being a help to those who are younger, which is just fine. But you also do have Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard and
Jake the Snake,
and fucking Jake the Snake Roberts. So you already have guys who can help. What would be nice? Having the kids you want to get help from those guys, put them on the fucking TV show.
I agree with you on that one. And this is why it's something I've been thinking about. AEW, if I were running the company, or if they said, hey, Simon Street, let's take a shot in the dark. What the fuck do you think we should do? I said, make that shit like fucking Mount Olympus, where you have all of these greats of yesteryear. Hear me out. Yesteryear. And they all pick a champion or a group of champions that they want to groom. And those are the people that are in the ring every week. I know.
Look, I tell you what.
You're like, it's fucking stupid, but watch they do that shit. Watch they do that shit.
Let's table this. Let's table this to next week when we have our full board. And we'll
let Steve, I tried, man. I tried because I knew.
We'll let the other board see what you say, okay? When we get to that. Of course, Don Callis, right, from Impact Wrestling, Executive Vice President, was at the commentary table, which was shocking there, but apparently he's good friends, right, with Kenny Omega. And of course, that big match with Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley had their match. So before even getting into the ending overall, did you enjoy the match presentation leading up to what happened? Was that very well put together? You happy how that came together?
I like the fact that Mr. Callis was really, really great on the announce table to the point to where I want him to come back on Wednesday, and then the next Wednesday, and then the next Wednesday until somebody out of a job. I'm just saying.
You're probably gonna get that happening because if the timing's correct, Callis should be out of his contract very soon.
Mm-hmm.
This is hopefully what I said this. God,
you did say that a long time ago.
Yeah, they need a guy like that, his mind in there, and he could help out then commentary. Now that everyone who put Renee in AEW with that year-long wait that she would have now that she's pregnant, they might have to go a different avenue if they are pursuing new people into the booth. You know what, the fact of the matter is Kenny Omega just does not translate the it factor to me. It's, if you look at, I love how fans like to use New Japan as this very high prestigious thing. It's a very snobbish way of looking at wrestling, right? Because I watch New Japan. That's the kind of wrestling I like. None of this Doink the Clown type of stuff.
At some point they did say that shit.
So the thing is, though, when you look at guys who've come from New Japan, who went there from the States, right? If you look at the Good Brothers, let's just say, are they worth it? Do you look at them and you go, my God, these guys are fucking amazing? Look at Kenny Omega. Look at Finn Balor. What have these guys done since they've come over that legitimizes them as the royalty that they were treated by the fans of New Japan, other than the fact that those are the fans from New Japan who just salivate over anything that these guys do?
So re-ask the question and add some names, because you said Finn Balor, which I think his name should be left out of your question because he's done a hell of a lot.
Really?
Finn Balor's done, well, he's currently the NXT champion.
Right, the NXT champion. From the NXT champion he was the first time before he went to the main WWE roster and he had to go back to NXT.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Even though he had to go back to NXT, while he was on the main roster for a long stint of time, he was one of the people that didn't necessarily have to have a title, as we talk about many, many times. It's just a prop because he had an audience. He captivated people.
Really?
Now,
what was your favorite Finn Balor feud or moment?
Feud or moment? I mean, like in NXT, or are you talking about with regards to
what you just said? He came up to the roster and he was this fucking thing that was so good. What did he do?
I see what you're trying to get at.
I'm not seeing what I'm trying to get at. What I am getting at, and that fact of the matter is that AJ Styles is the only person worth fucking 2 cents who has gotten back over here and just turned himself into a goddamn fucking star.
You know what? That's actually true. Let me say why. Because I don't wait. Hold on. Wait, Simon. Let me tell you why. Because I knew nothing about Kenny Omega outside of the fact that he was at New Japan, right? And I used to always hear because actually I think, and it probably was even with King Lucky. I remember I used to remember him going, man, John Cena, he done tweeted out a picture of like Kenny Omega on his social media or something like that. And it would just be, and then you'll hear like, oh my God, this amazing match that Kenny had over. And I would go back and somehow figure out how to watch the video and look, and and they were great matches. I'm not taking anything away from that. But when Kenny Omega did make his decision that he was going to be with AEW, I now was thinking, okay, well, now we're going to get this sort of Kenny Omega experience that we had from New Japan here. And I will say that, and this is not saying that Kenny is a horrible wrestler. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying it just doesn't seem like that what we saw there is what you see now.
Of course not. It's a different pond. It's a different pond.
But when you do that, then how does that make you look when you do that though? I mean, we have expectations. Like
who's we?
I would think fans in general who follow.
No. But what fans? What fans? Because
fans
who are very diverse.
Well, the fans who are familiar with New Japan, okay, who's familiar with New Japan, who's now watching U.S. wrestling, okay, they would be. Now, again, I didn't watch a lot of Kenny Omega. I saw maybe a match or whatever the case. So I really can just judge Kenny off of what I've seen him doing now. And to me, it's not like it's horrible. But if I was a follower of Kenny from his career, and especially what he did in New Japan, and was to now see what he did now, it would be almost night and day. What Michaels is saying, though, is that with AJ, people saw what he was doing there, compared that to what he's doing now, and he's even being better now, which is like, wow. Now I see that, and that's what I'm saying with I guess my thing was I was hyped for a Kenny Omega choice of AEW. I would have been hyped for his choice in WWE because all I knew about Kenny was he was great in New Japan. But now since I've been seeing him, again, he's not horrible. It's just that it's not the same hype that I saw over there. And I don't know why that is. If he had to, for lack of better terms, dumb down his style, or he just got unmotivated, or what it is, but it's just not the same. So that's what I wanted to put my 2 cents in on that.
It will help. It will help for him if they do work out a deal and get in Callis. You might not even see Callis be the commentators. It's a whole nother story because, 1 week you put Taz on commentary for most of the show and then he goes into the ring. Right. It's just like, you know what? Fucking make your decision because those guys are more entertaining. I would take Jericho, Taz, or Callis over any of the other 3 guys.
Yeah.
But if Callis is Kenny's manager, then you have a formula that will elevate him to a little something more that is payoff, a payoff, okay? Mm-hmm. To go to that next level. He hasn't gone to the next level yet. And I don't think in AEW even, the organization that are so stringent on records. By the way, I think when he walked out of the ring, they flashed a graphic. Apparently he's 8-0.
Yeah, I saw that. 8-0. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he wasn't 8-0.
Numbers or whatever. I don't get it.
They basically fluffed the stats like WCW did with Goldberg.
Yeah,
when he was undefeated, like 170 wins and counting or some shit.
So apparently Kenny's only had 8 matches in AEW and he's won them all.
No.
Okay, whatever.
They could have provided more context with that.
But that's the problem. The problem is that the consistency level, for instance, you look at Moxley, right? A lot of people can argue that the WWE used Moxley wrong, and now he's showing what he can do, right? Mm-hmm. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah,
that's what you want to see. Kenny Omega, the first year it's been this, you know, it's been this thing that has been hyped for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And when you saw what it really was, that doesn't translate to keeping eyes.
I agree.
It translates to keeping New Japan fans, anti WWE fans, people who are wrestling snobs who just focus on AEW as the better product because it's not WWE.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. But again, you're not building your brand that way. You're just keeping the same people. And eventually, they like to tout the younger demo. What's interesting about the younger demo is that we never get, to my knowledge, a full breakdown of how many of those people are 18 to 24, let's say. And because it's 18 to like 54 or whatever, I almost guarantee that a lot of that demo that they're winning are the exact same people that are the wrestling snob people, the people who are going to watch AEW regardless.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem.
Well, the one thing that I will tell you on some of the points that you did make, which are true and force. When I looked at this match, particularly because we are talking about this match, Moxley and Omega, I felt that it wasn't the best match as far as what I would have had a Kenny Omega championship berth in AEW. That's just my opinion. Not so much because of Moxley and the competitor that he is. I do feel that there is a certain way in which where you have a person that's a mainstay in New Japan wrestling culture. If you don't have enough people to, I guess, showcase, and that's something that AEW hasn't been able to do. WWE has barely been able to make do with their talent that came over there. You don't have enough people transitioning from New Japan into the States with wrestling like that. At least I haven't seen on the major promotions. So it's hard to try and dumb it down. The reason why AJ Styles did so well is because you got to realize AJ Styles built up his career, his base, if you will, in America. He then went to New Japan and did great things there. And so when he came back, he put the two together. And that's why AJ Styles, and plus a lot of it has to do with just he's fucking truly what his name is, phenomenal. So he is able to take that higher level. But with this match in particular, there were some things that I saw into where it wasn't the greatest championship match. And I'm saying that just to be honest. I felt like it wasn't a great match. It was okay. The ending was interesting because of the controversy that follows afterwards. But the whole two chairs sitting down, hitting each other back and forth, I did not like that at all. I thought that was like, well, what are we doing? That's not even a match. This is a championship match. It should have been taken more seriously.
Well, very interesting. And of course, how that match ended with Kenny winning the title with him and Don Callis walking past pretty much everyone, boning out, moving fast as they can and get to the car and say, hey, we'll talk about it on Impact this Tuesday. So, hey, it's gotta be great for
not for Impact. Because I like Impact as a product. When he said Tuesday, on what? The channel that not everybody freaking can get to unless you illegally download it in piracy, but I'm not advocating that.
True.
So I'm going to give you a call, Impact, and you tell me what the hell they talked about on Tuesday, because I don't watch Access TV because I don't have
it. So that's the big problem. There's a couple problems. That's the biggest glaring problem, right? What does Impact Wrestling gain from this? It gains a hype in which people who watch AEW, who are those fans that I was just talking about, they already watch Impact Wrestling, most likely. Okay. Those who don't most likely don't watch it because of the fact they don't get access. You're not going to get new eyes on that product through this, most likely. And if you do, it's a very small percentage. So in turn, what does AEW gain, right? well, hopefully, most likely, they'll gain Don Callis, and they'll probably get the Young Bucks Good Brothers match, which so fucking what? One match that doesn't, whatever. It's great. You have one good match, particularly. And what if the match ends up not being that good? Now you're saddled with a shitty match that you put all this effort into getting the companies to come together, blah, blah, blah. The biggest problem is that the Young Bucks tweeted that, isn't it nice that you could, basically essentially fantasy book, essentially, being fans ourselves, we could fantasy book, blah, blah. There's no indication that this arrangement is going past anything other than what we saw with Omega and him going on the show this coming Tuesday and the possible Bucks Good Brothers matchup. But yet you had thousands upon thousands of people out there now all of a sudden coming up with these dream matches, these so-called dream matches, because apparently Impact Wrestling has such good talent that it's going to be amazing when they come over to AEW. But
well, they got some good talent. They got some good talent,
right?
Not in the way that people think it's going to work. It's more to it.
Hyped up. Yeah. Especially those people who think that this now means that the women's division is going to be the biggest women's division ever, the best, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing. There's no indication that anything is done. And the fact of the matter is that everyone is jumping the fucking gun on this. If this shit backfires to the disliking of those fans, AEW is in big trouble.
We've talked about it before on the show, exactly what you said when we have these crossovers. I think that's what we're going to probably have to start calling these crossovers. You walk a thin line, and you have to make sure that if you execute it correctly, and it needs to be sparingly. It can't be like how we saw with Thunder Rosa, because that got tiring, because we were like, well, why don't you we only seen the NWA Women's Championship. Well, what the hell? But what I will say, which I said before, and I've had time to think about it since our last conversation, one thing that AEW has an opportunity to do, and this is what right now a lot of people are talking about, even though it's ridiculous, and they're making these different assumptions that you're going to have more than just Impact Wrestling. You're going to have ROH, and you're going to have New Japan. You're going to have all these. What if to at least, while WrestleMania is kind of going on, okay, in the future, and this is really a big what if AEW could play ball with Impact and could play ball with, let's say, ROH and New Japan, and come up with a quality show that they put time and effort into. And it's only one time a year, not the same time with WrestleMania, but maybe a little bit after or a little bit before, right? One time a year where you have these fantasy matchups, okay? Give the unrealistic people what they want, these fantasy matchups, okay? Now, just have it to where that's the only crossover event. And after that, everybody goes back their separate ways. Has to be a title change per se. What do you think, Michaels?
I think that what happens is that most of the people who would be watching the product are doing it illegally, so they lose money.
Well, that's already the case with most of these products anyways.
Well, let me say this, and then we'll move right on, because we got to really get going. I will say this for Impact. I won't fully say that it won't be no gain for them. They slowly have been increasing their ratings little by little. I think there's two things they could be doing. The first issue is, I think there are more people that have access but don't know it. And I think they have to figure out a way to get that information to them to check to see if they have it. Because if you're a DirecTV subscriber, I know, and I don't know whoever else that they may be, I'm sure it's more than just DirecTV, but DirecTV alone may have whatever amount, 10 million or whatever the case. I'm pretty sure out of the 10 million, subscribers, let's say DirecTV would have, that it's more than just 100,000 of them who would be interested in Impact, but they don't know. There was a time I didn't know I had access. So I think they're going to try to figure out a way to try to get people to at least searching for access to see if they do have it. A second thing I will say is the Impact Plus. I think they'll probably need to try to build that up, because if you end up having Impact Plus, which of course is their digital catalog, that I'm not sure, but then you get access to their shows there. So what I'm saying, it's not a major benefit. It's not nothing huge, but they could grab a little bit of something, because their numbers are growing, but very slow. Yeah.
But one of the funny things that you said is, this idea that they're not advertising well enough to get people to know that they have this thing. Mm-hmm. What's really interesting about that is it's their fucking station now. They own it.
Right.
Why the hell is that company, the parent company, are they not fucking pushing this, as they should be? This is one way to potentially reach more viewership. But again, I caution the fact that a lot of those people who watch AEW already in some form watch Impact, even if it's just a fast forward through.
Sure.
So,
well, I can tell you one thing that's a problem is I've seen it right now that it looks like, from what I've quickly searched, Impact Plus $7.99 per month. You get a 30-day free trial for $7.99. That's not bad.
Yeah.
If you include pay-per-views and you have a quality stream.
You don't get pay-per-views, I don't think.
I mean, so for $7.99, and my big question is, and hopefully Impact is listening, if I buy this for $7.99, because I do like when I do watch Impact Wrestling, okay, am I watching the shows, I guess, as live as can be on Tuesday? Do you see what I'm saying? As if, like, if I could talk to Impact, who's watching on DirecTV, hey, man, I'm watching Impact right now, man, this match happened. If that's the scenario, which I think is,
to find that out. I mean, there isn't a delay. There isn't too much of a delay, because even like right now, you can get their latest episode, but I don't know how long that takes to jump on. So, all right, WWE Raw. Did anybody watch that this past week? I mean, or were you just gearing up for all the other shows?
I watched it a little. I watched it.
Anything that you want to take away? You just want to kind of mention that caught your interest there?
I mean, I think the only thing that was an interesting match was, obviously Jeff Hardy, the Symphony of Destruction. He did where he went off the top, and I guess there was a table right where the steel steps were, and he cried. He did a swanton, and the back of his head hit the very bottom step. That was pretty scary. It looked pretty scary, but of course,
sure.
Jeff just gets right back up like it's nothing.
Sure. Did that happen on Monday night?
Was it Monday? I don't know.
Yeah,
it was Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, you over here I was like, hold on, yeah. It was already going to be a rough match anyways, because they did it with Braun Strowman and Elias. It's his specialty match, but that was a scary thing. I mean, other than that, it wasn't anything that was too.
Yeah, I mean, they had a Ricochet and Flapjack.
I was gonna say that.
Miz TV, they ran that.
I was gonna say a funny thing that was kind of funny that happened on that Monday. It was what's her name, Reckoning, which is really just Mia Yim. Her mask came off, and she just wrestled the rest of the match with the mask off. And then she lost, and she was sitting there looking sad, and her leader told her, "Retribution, there is no defeat. There is no," and I'm just not buying it. I'm sorry. I really wish they would just all ditch the masks and and have Jafar just do a better job as their leader. And I'm sorry I'm digging at him, but I just
Asuka and Lana, they won their match against Shayna and Nia Jax, so hey, Yeah. And you had Cedric Alexander versus Xavier Woods. Shout out to Xavier. I just want to say that because we rarely get to see him in single matches, and he's good. you know. So whenever you do get to see him, the Storm is prop. So that was a cool match. And of course, Keith Lee versus Riddle versus AJ Styles. Anything there that really you guys enjoyed? I mean, that was always
it was a good match. But like I said before, even though Matt Riddle's not a small dude, but having a big, I noticed that equation of a bigger dude, a titan such as, you know, Keith Lee, and then you have AJ Styles, who's a little bit small, and then you have Matt Riddle, who's agile. Each one of them played a good part. Like Matt Riddle did a really good job of just showing his athleticism, his creativity in the ring. You know, of course, they were, you know, it was a good match, you know.
Yeah. And then they had a moment of bliss. So there you go.
Moment of bliss.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is that
Raw was Raw.
Well, no, I think, you know what, you've got good things going on. I mean, you got the whole Bliss and Fiend stuff, and you kind of getting you know, this Randy Orton stuff. But again, the hardest thing is with so much fucking wrestling, I don't remember what the fuck happened at the beginning of the week anymore. So
right.
Yeah.
Yep. There was Impact Wrestling. I just got a couple of notes here. First off, this has happened within the last couple of weeks because, of course, we wasn't on the during the last week. So they finally did find out who shot Bravo, and again, this is where I think Impact this is where I think they mess up, you know. But it's okay. I mean, they have a history of messing up. But let's see where it goes. Maybe it would go somewhere. But apparently. It ended up being Larry from Triple XL. Okay, you guys know the Triple XL, the two big guys. Larry's part of there. Well, when they used to do that Wrestle House, at one point, Larry became Lawrence D, was just more like this playboy. He was a playboy guy, right? And at one point, he through his playboy, which I think Rosemary threw the magic on him to become this playboy Lawrence D. Him and Rosemary really got along together, and he thought that was really, going to become something. Although remember, Rosemary is into Bravo. This was during Wrestle House. Well, anyway, they had this past couple of weeks, they had this fake trial, and Lawrence D happened to be up on the stage, and they spritz him again with this magic again. That's normally this is what Rosemary does, but she wasn't there, and it's just ridiculous. But Lawrence D claims and admitted he was the one who shot Bravo because Bravo took his girl. So they was connecting that back to the Wrestle House that happened several months ago. But what's the payoff on that, right? What's going to happen with Lawrence D? I mean, he's with Triple XL. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where that was. I was hoping something was going to come out of that, but they still played along with it, whatever. Knockouts Tag Team title. They're still running the brackets. What I thought was pretty cool, Grace was trying to partner, and she found Jazz. That was pretty exciting. Y'all know Jazz. I actually thought Jazz, I had read not too long ago that she had retired, so I was kind of shocked to see that, but of course that money talks, right?
Is she still buff? Is she still like really buff?
Yeah, I mean, she looked good. She looked good. I mean, so that was her partner, Jordan Grace and Jazz, and they compete against Killer Kelly and Renee Michelle. I think you may remember Renee Michelle. She was part of the Mae Young Classic, I believe, a few years back.
Renee Michelle just wrestled down for GCW in Florida.
Yes. Yeah. So that was the match, and Jordan Grace and Jazz won. So let's see how far that goes. Maybe Jazz may be around for a minute, and so they advance up to the Knockouts Tag Team title. So let's see where that goes. But it was cool to see Jazz. I haven't seen her in a long time. The last couple of things, I mentioned Joe Doering always, where we always go, who the heck is Joe Doering? He comes out with Eric Young, and he dismantled Johnny Swinger and Cousin Jake. They're really building these two. Well, Eric Young, I guess you could say, is already built, but they're really building up Joe Doering as this pair. So we'll see where that ends up going there. And the very last thing, Tiana Barrazo and Kimberly, I guess they made a deal with Father John Mitchell. They wanted to turn Su Yung back to Susie, okay? Because Su Yung is just pretty much, I guess very difficult to beat, and they just don't have her number. But if they get Susie, they can take care of her. So, hey, Father Mitchell said, if you just get her to the ring, I could take care of it. So they Deanna went to the ring and say, hey, you get a title match, you come right now to the ring and I give it to you. And sure enough, that brings Su Yung to the ring. Now Father Mitchell gets to come to the ring, have a few words with her, and then he brings out the scary brides, about 10 brides that look like Su Yung came out, circled the ring. That got Deanna to come in and whoop up on Su Yung, and then the brides eventually took Su Yung out with her Father Mitchell. So that's how that ended. We'll see if this transformation of Susie comes back, but anyway, that's how that ended, and that was Impact Wrestling. So apparently, they're really just trying to build up to this Tuesday. Let's just try to get to Tuesday, okay? And that was it. The WWE SmackDown. Any memorable mentions there, guys? That wasn't too long ago.
Just pretty much, Kevin Owens is ever so defiant. Definitely doesn't fear Roman Reigns, and pretty much at the end, Roman Reigns showed him why he should be feared, and also too beat the shit out of his cousin yet again. I just love how Roman Reigns has really captured this essence of himself. Like saying like he said a line. Now he said a line that I tell my kids when they get in trouble. I tell them, like, I love you. It's okay. But there's always a consequence. And I'm quiet. And I don't say nothing. And later on, they get the consequence. Now, I don't beat my kids over the back with a steel chair. Ain't got that far. But that's basically what Roman Reigns did. And he continues to it's just fucking amazing Roman Reigns. I love this Roman Reigns. I don't ever want him to fucking turn back. I want him to be this forever, for life, head of the table. And what he did to Kayla was fucking sheer amazing. You had one opportunity. Paul Heyman went to bat.
I like that too.
Elvis. Go ahead, Michaels.
I was going to say, do yourselves a favor, and after you watch a Roman Reigns segment where he's talking, rewind it and don't look at him. Just watch Paul Heyman.
Oh yeah, I did. I was watching Paul. I watch Paul a lot because
he's always concerned and like his demeanor. Yeah, kudos to him.
The fact of the matter is he's doing something that every fucking person who's involved in the business should do, and that is you're listening. You're in the moment.
Yeah,
you're reacting to what you're hearing. So that's what. The little things that make things better is that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is Carmella and Sasha Banks DOA? Jesus Christ.
Wasn't that like Basketball Wives or some shit like that, the way they set that up?
Oh, just awful. I don't know.
Oh man.
The thing with Carmella is the less mic time for her, the better. She's not horrible, but I mean, just in that scenario and the way they set it up, it was just like, come on, man.
Right.
And once again, you see the amazing talents of guys like Shinsuke and Cesaro and Sami Zayn and everyone involved in that match, Daniel Bryan, that was as good as a performance for a tribute to Pat Patterson that you could have given. I think that Pat, if he would have been alive to watch that, would have just been sitting back and just loving it, because the one thing they've always been good at doing is that when something happens that is a losing of someone that is dear to the company, there's always one match, at least one match that's put on that is just amazing. And I mean, those guys just put their heart and soul into it because it was for Pat.
Yeah.
You know, that goes without saying that you know, the biggest thing of this week was the fact that Pat Patterson passed away. And
Right.
you know, you talk about someone who shaped everything that you see in terms of, you know, Dusty and Pat Patterson, outside of Vince McMahon and what he created in terms of the overall, probably the two greatest minds in the history of the business. So, you know,
Yeah.
it's sad to see that you know, we're losing you know, some of what makes the legacy of the sport so. And the you know, kudos to Jerry Briscoe's Wolverine uh, sideburns, man. He was standing out there alongside Vince for that 10 ball salute. And man, you know, when you think about, you know, you always in the recent years would see Jerry pretty clean shaven, you know, and to see him like that, man. Even at his age, there's one motherfucker you just do not want to start shit with because he could probably take you down in a second. You know, so unfortunately, it takes things like this to where, you know, viewers who don't do a lot of social media and stuff, you know, get to see someone like that. You get to see Sergeant Slaughter again, you know, on stage.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's melancholy to say the least. Also, on another note, anyone listening, please check out GoFundMe. James Ellsworth just set up a GoFundMe for Kevin Gill, who was Gilbert. He recently just had a heart attack. You know, it's another instance where there's someone out there in need, you know, of support. If you remember him, and you know, if you've never heard of him, look up his story, look up Gilbert. He has quite a cool little story and history about his wrestling career. And he's one of those guys that he never made, you know, the millions upon millions of dollars that some of these guys make. And when you have a health issue like this come up, you know, you need some help. And any fans who can, you know, support him just a little bit, that would be wonderful, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for doing that, Matt Michaels, because I was gonna ask you to say a little words towards the end, but I mean, you moved right into it, and appreciate that. We definitely can't not mention Pat Patterson, just because you don't see a lot of the legends and people that we admire on the screen. There's a lot happening behind, in the background, when the cameras are off, that is helping, allowing us to enjoy what we see, because they're building that behind the scenes. And he was just always one of the ones that was doing that. So when we sit and we enjoy what we just saw from all of the different shows and pay-per-views, you know, you're looking at someone that has a part in that, you know. And so you definitely have to give them that respect as well. I even had to put my my wife on punishment, because, you know, they showed the first Intercontinental Championship belt, and when she saw that, she was like, "That looked like something from Arts and Crafts Project." I said, "Excuse me." To the corner.
How well did that go?
I just got looked at, but you know, she just know don't be saying stuff like that. But yes. So right quickly, and then we'll be done. ROH, there was a couple of matches that happened last week. I'm just going to briefly mention them. There was a Brody King versus Shane Taylor match, and Brody King did beat Shane Taylor. And he said, "Hey, I'm coming for you, Roosh." So Roosh, who of course is the ROH champ, watch your back, man. And then Josh Woods had a match against Jay Lethal, and Josh Woods won. So those are really good matches. I'm enjoying what's happening over at ROH. This past week, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just really quick on both those guys. Brody is really starting to accelerate, which is exciting because he's always been one of the good guys on the scene. And Josh, man, dude, you talk about someone who's just embraced what they've given him. The last year of Josh Woods' career has just been great. His development has been wonderful. And you check out some of this ROH stuff, but go into the two matches that they did have this week.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I thought you were stopping. Because I actually watched it this week, so keep going. Yeah.
And then there was, for this week, there was a match with Mike Bennett, who we love as Mike Canellis, versus Vincent. And that was the grudge match. And the reason why I guess that's a grudge is because they used to all be a part of the Kingdom. And so, it was funny. Mike was like, I don't know where you get this Vincent from. His name is Vinny. But very, very good match right there. And Mike Bennett, he won due to a disqualification. But of course, Vincent just went in on him, caused Taven to eventually come from the back, which then caused, I forget the guy on Vince's team to come out and then attack him. So now this became this big brawl. And apparently they want to end up having a match against each other. The Kingdom, and what is the other guys? Oh, they call it the Righteous. Yes. So the other guy that Vincent is part of is called the Righteous. So that right there was a really good match. And then under the pure rules, there was a John Walters versus Tracy Williams, Hot Sauce Tracy Williams match.
Awesome match.
Yes, absolutely. Awesome. And again, Tracy Williams won that match as well. And I tell you, it's just great to see. I mean, aren't you, now that you guys have been, watched a few, isn't it great to see them all operating and up? Because, that's what we've been missing again. Just really good wrestling and good storylines. It doesn't, and it's just two matches that you see in an hour, but it's just great. And it just feels like you've gotten what you needed within that time frame. So it works, and I'm glad they're doing it. Next week, Flip Gordon will go against Josh Woods, and then Mark Briscoe and PCO. I haven't seen him yet. Will be going against the Bouncer. So that should be great. Make sure you tune in to that. Fellas, it's been great, man, hanging out with you, seeing everybody's good, coming after the Thanksgiving holiday, and we're moving towards Christmas as well. And we thank everyone for listening to us and on our live feed. Thanks for the comments. Quite a few people jumped in. Ringsiders. Brett jumped in as well. The Unprofessional Wrestling Podcast jumped in. Tristan. Quite a few people was on. We thank you for just hanging out with us the time you did. And if you're listening to us on our podcast, thank you for downloading, subscribing, and most importantly, tell your friends, other wrestling fans. Tell them, hey, it's a great podcast that is growing, and you should check them out. And we think if they give us a chance, they'll get hooked, and we'll appreciate that too. So with that, don't forget our next podcast will be 3 Count, and we got some great topics coming. The Falco Files, Wednesday. It's so much good information there. You definitely want to check that out. And then we also have a different interview every Friday. Hey, indie wrestling, it starts from somewhere, and then we see them move up to a bigger status, another level, move into the major companies, but you have to start from somewhere. And on Fridays, most of the time, we get a chance to hear people who are making moves in the indie wrestling. Give a listen to them. You'd be amazed to hear their stories. If you're a wrestler, you'll probably find out that there are other, these guys are going through the same things you're going through, and maybe they can even be some help, some assistance in your career as you move forward. We're all trying to help one another in this as we build this, right? So again, thanks for listening. Until then, we're out. Peace.
And we're still up for a live feed here. Be going into 3 count in just a little bit. We have some stuff coming up in terms of releases. There's some good stuff going on out there, and I think that whether it be
so babe, I got one more podcast, right? Okay.
Out there, if
I didn't cut off their internet, I better do that now because they're probably still up there.
So anyone who's listening right now, this is DJ's actual family stuff and drama. That
I'm sorry. I didn't know that I could. My bad.
You can hit mute.
I'm sorry about that. My apologies.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure you knew that you were being broadcast over the World Wide Web.
Thank you.
Please don't stand up because we know you in your boxer shorts from the waist down.
Yeah, we're lucky if you have
with the white slippers.
Yeah,
with the white slippers on.
Funny.
But I think that there are some good interviews coming up with a lot of younger talent to look forward to, and just in general, check out a couple guys. Jordan Cruz, if you haven't seen his work yet. You can also check out Jordan Clearwater. He is Hollywood Heritage Champion for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood right now. Class, if you haven't seen any Class's stuff. We've been talking to some people around the country, including Culture Inc., who is a phenomenal faction out of the Florida area. There's a lot of good stuff going on right now, and as uncertain as everything is in terms of whether we'll be seeing live shows with an audience soon enough, there's enough content going on. If you check out Fight TV, grab a subscription, and especially if you can pick up some of these shows when they're airing live for $10-15. You're getting some pretty decent quality shows around the country. So still support your independent wrestling scene, but kind of step out of your comfort zone. If you get a chance and you live, let's say, in Boston, check out the West Coast a little bit, because a lot of times you keep your eyes on one side of the country that you forget the other side exists. So there's a lot of good stuff going on, and we look forward to continuing to see that come in over the next year in 2021.
Got about 30 seconds. All right. Got about 30 seconds.
If you guys are looking for Christmas gift ideas, none better than wrapping PCO in gift wrapped, because that was always what we want under the tree. You imagine the sheer delight of kids when they open that present and they get PCO.
All righty, let's get here. Here, okay. All right, let's do it. Welcome to another edition of Vegas Bad Boy. I'm your host, DJ Impact, and I'm here with Simon Street and with Matt Michaels. It's good to see you guys. Some of our other members are doing their thing. We're in the holiday season and birthday season, so sometimes people just need a little bit of a break, right?
Wait, what the fuck is a birthday season?
Well, you know what?
Is that like
you know
a whole
what?
year?
Some people celebrate their birthday a whole month, a whole week. You know, they make it a season. You know, so hopefully our guy's not doing that, but you never know, right? This is 3 Count, and thank you all for tuning in and checking us out. If you're in the live feed, you can definitely throw any comments in, and we'll take a look at that. If you're listening to us on our podcast, just thanks for downloading and for subscribing to us. All right, let's get right to it. Our first one comes from ProWrestling.com. It's titled CM Punk claims NXT roster should be embarrassed over Pat McAfee being the best promo on the show. Now, just reading a little bit from it, it said that Punk watched the show and took to Twitter in order to provide his thoughts. The WWE legend claimed that the roster should be embarrassed due to the fact that McAfee is the best promo on the show, although he did note that it was down to circumstances, agreeing with the fan in one of his replies that it's down to WWE not brainwashing him. However, Punk did claim that the former NFL star is the best thing on the show that isn't named Rhea Ripley, clearly being a fan of the former NXT Women's Champion. Punk also stated that there's no reason for McAfee not to fully commit to wrestling. Okay, guys, let me throw you out there and see what your thoughts. Do you believe that all the roster, now think, because we know we just came off of a fresh War Games, everything leading up to War Games. Would you say that the NXT roster should be embarrassed over what Pat McAfee has been doing on the show as of late? What would you say? Go, Simon.
No, they really shouldn't, because those circumstances that Punk had mentioned in his tweet, has a lot to do with the way that they're taught to do promos. I think he mentioned it as in a robot, unnatural type of way. I think that there are certain individuals that can rise to do a finesse, like Pat McAfee. He's really good at doing promos on the mic, and so he probably didn't need to have to follow that equation that's being taught most of the time. But is it anything to be ashamed of? No, because let's be honest, Pat McAfee is not an in-ring performer like that. Yeah, he can do some spots, as he showed us. But if you saw that week in, we would see the difference. Keep him on the mic, not in the ring.
So you're saying that the NXT roster, that they shouldn't be embarrassed?
No.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, Matt Michaels. I mean, do you think that they're, I know CM Punk will kind of, blow things up a little bit. That's just kind of his character. He'll make something sound a lot. But I think he also believes in what he says as well. Do you think he has some sort of truth to what he's saying here, that the NXT roster should be embarrassed over what Pat McAfee's been doing?
The hardest thing here is throwing out a general blanket, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just the whole roster. With the exception of Rhea.
Yeah. Like, what about Gargano, right? I think he holds his well on the mic as well as in the ring. But okay, go ahead.
Look at seriously, Gargano. You got Ciampa. I mean, Ciampa fucking put. Cameron Grimes. I'm sorry, Cameron Grimes. He's a fucking entertaining promo.
Right.
The reason Pat McAfee stands out is because Pat McAfee sits at a desk and does a fucking talk show.
Right. Yeah.
If he wasn't good at it, then I would question what the fuck is wrong with this guy.
Yeah.
So he gets to practice every fucking day at being an over-exaggerated, example of himself. That's the other thing too. He plays Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
So you're not, you're not asking him to be something that he's not. You also, if you really want to get down to the nitty-gritty, NXT is your development territory.
Right.
So you would expect that some of these guys might not be as good on the mic, but a lot of these guys, especially those who participated in War Games, everyone on that pay-per-view, they're all solid.
Yeah.
You know? So I think what he's, again, he doesn't hold anything back.
Yeah.
I think it's a motivation type of thing of, telling people that they should be embarrassed because, this guy who is an outsider can do it better than you who are actually getting paid to do this. Do it. But, look at some of the guys on the main roster that are not great promo
Yeah.
people.
Yep.
Right.
So I think that it's really nice when CM Punk keeps himself relevant, because then this way people can stay excited about when he's coming back next.
I think we'll be 20 years down the line going, boy,
thank you.
I wonder if he's coming back.
And imagine if that were one of us, just off the sheer fact that you could drop a tweet in the bucket and immediately that just restarts the clock of everybody going crazy when you come back. I wish I could do that to make some money off of that. Otherwise, I'd say controversial shit too.
I guess maybe he's also just thinking, though, that after hearing Pat, he just gets energized into, he's getting sold on to the match,
Well,
and even the other guys, maybe although they have good promos, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're really getting exciting for what they're about to see.
So
maybe that's what he's trying to say, Mm-hmm.
Think about it. When you put Pat McAfee with three guys, those are three guys who are not known for their promotional skills, man.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's also, again, I think a lot of it comes down to character, because look at a guy like Dexter Lumis, right?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to say anything.
Right.
And he sells the match and what you're about to see just through that fucking gaze in his eyes.
Right.
Which is a fucking hard thing to do.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, again, of course, there is a little more energy and excitement, but you're also talking about the circumstance. Pat McAfee had one job, and that is to sell this.
Right.
And that's why they let him do it, is because he can do it.
Yeah.
So, can people, bring it up a notch? Absolutely. But at the same time, you're still missing one of your biggest promo guys who's about to come back, and that's Cross.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about, McAfee is someone who's just come in recently. Cross has been someone who's been in the business. When Cross starts cutting his promos, then you can start talking about the other guys having to step up even more, because here's a guy now who does what you do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And if he makes you look any less because he's that much better at talking, then, it's time to step up your game. But I don't know. I think that sometimes the CM Punk, maybe being straight edge is not the fucking way to go.
Simon Street, just one quick thing for you. Now, the term brainwash was used by an actual Twitter fan, and then I think CM Punk just sort of kind of agreed. But the term brainwash, as far as how the guys do the promo, do you believe that all the guys just sound a certain way just because that's the way WWE tells them to sound? Or do you just believe that, it's not necessarily that they're brainwashed, it's just that they're trying to figure out their style. And in trying to figure that out, it may sound kind of what they're trained to do, but they're also learning how to get out of it.
Well, you kind of just said it. I mean, there's some people that you could teach something, and then they can take the information that is given to them and they can make it their own. As you said, their style. And then there are some people that need to follow the cue, step 1, step 2, step 3. And that's where some people will sound robotic a little bit, or scripted, as some people will say, because for them, they're not able to make it natural for them the way that they would be. And again, there's some cases where I've seen some people who, if they would just find that click, if it would just click in their head of how to make this sound natural for them, not trying to sound like somebody else or someone they're trying to sound like, it would just click for them. And I think maybe that's what that tweet, that fan saying brainwashed. I thought that was a bit exaggerating, but he was getting to a point.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see from that point where, how that goes. I mean, Pat McAfee's definitely a great talker on the mic. And like Matt says, I mean, this is his job. So, I mean, man, you can't do that and that's your job. That's definitely a problem. So, let's go to
really quick. You just made me think of a very interesting thing here. And that is this. Let's go main roster and let's look at Roman Reigns.
Perfect example.
He was fucking horrible as a face.
Yep, because he wasn't natural.
Horrible. Yeah. And that's what he came off as a robotic. He just was not in his fucking makeup to make that persona of a character work. He gets the opportunity to be this heel. You hone in on the family aspect, and all of a sudden you got fucking gold. Yep. So, you gotta remember, and Punk knows this better than anyone else because it was Punk's whole thing. The whole pipe bomb thing.
Sure.
Basically got him over, right?
Yep. Right.
To the extent where he would go on to become, such a popular persona and character. But did they try to do that to Punk and make him that, that cookie cutter? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that in contrast, sometimes it's the material or character you're given. And then sometimes you might have to just grow a pair and try something out. And, that's risky. But, in the cases of guys who are so confident and work really well, like Punk did, taking the gamble worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
well, and also too, kudos to Pat McAfee. Just it says a lot about NXT, WWE, trusting him enough to be able to basically essentially do his promos, because I'm pretty sure they didn't write half the stuff he was writing or he was spitting. You know what I mean? So, I mean, kudos to him for being able to just, pull up to the plate and like Matt Michael said, he took a chance. They all took a chance and it paid off.
And let's give credit where credit is due with that too. That's Hunter.
Yeah.
Hunter taking the leap of faith. We can only see where, people go from here, but let's just call it.
Well, let me ask you, do you think Pat, I mean, I don't know if you guys know a little bit more than I do on what's his intentions, but is Pat looking to get more involved into WWE and kind of take a stand away from what he does now in radio, or is he just doing this as just something fun, one-offs here and that's it? Or we really just don't know. We just don't really know.
I'll voice my opinion on that one. Like I said earlier, unless he's going to truly dedicate himself to training for in-ring, that's where I would be interested to see what the end product will be, because we all know he's great on the mic, but to do in-ring week after week after week, I don't know if you're as good as a couple of spots on War Games. Is that fair for me to say? I think so.
I think it also highlights a very, very important thing, and that is bring back managers.
I agree. We should get a shirt. We should get a shirt that said "Bring back managers." Give managers a chance.
Because in all honesty, do we really even have to see Pat McAfee wrestle every week? No. But if we can see him manage the stable every week, that's great. And and again, this is more so really a thing about Punk going after the younger talent to get them to step up. It's motivation.
Sure.
Setting a fire under the ass. But hey, if CM Punk really believes in that, why not go down to FSW or FSW? That would be great.
That would be
Come on
great.
down to FSW.
That would be real great.
Yeah, go down to NXT and
Yep.
and teach promo lessons and develop some of these kids.
Yeah,
I agree. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, it would be great to see him in that capacity. All right, let's go over to our second count. One actually comes from the New York Times.com, and then one also from 411mania.com. The one from the New York Times, they released their best performances of 2020. And it's pretty interesting. I mean, you can find all types of things on the list, just to name a few. There was an actress that won for season 3 of Ozarks, and also episode 7 of Lovecraft Country on HBO, which is a really good series. Netflix, there was an actress that won in The Queen's Gambit. So you kind of get an idea on, and they also even have one that's just kind of different. They had a Pete Buttigieg was hosting Jimmy Kimmel Live. And that also was that got one of the best performances. But out of all of that, Maxwell Jacob Freeman doing Me and My Shadow on AEW got some acknowledgement from there. I'm going to take this two ways. I'm going to just first off read just a little bit, because I'm kind of wondering if the writer of this seems so descriptive. He seemed like he may have an issue with WWE more than just the idea that he really loved the segment on AEW, but I want to get your opinion on that. The second thing is a question, and maybe I'll start off with this one first, because we've all kind of remember this particular, what do they call it? Dinner Debonair, right? On AEW. I think that was what the segment was called.
Dinner Debonair.
So, yeah. My first question, do you believe that out of some of the, as they go through the highlights of 2020, and I just named a few shows, a few networks and everything. First off, do you think that this portion of what MJF did is up to that level of best of 2020? That would be the first question I would ask either one of you. Would you look at that and say, oh, I can kind of see that being a part of being next to Ozarks, Lovecraft Country, the Queen's Gambit, Jimmy Kimmel Live that Pete Buttigieg hosted, and so on and so on. Would you see that that's an equivalent there? I'll start with you, Simon Street.
I would say from an art standpoint, yes, because you're showing different pieces in different arts. Now, I've seen some of the Queen's Gambit. I definitely have watched Lovecraft Country, and I know who they're talking about, the woman that played Hippolyta.
Right.
Definite standout performance. And I've seen parts of Ozark, and I know people have talked about that. So I assumed when they had this collection, when you're talking about artistic in places that you wouldn't expect it, you wouldn't expect these people that they mentioned in these like Ozarks or Lovecraft Country. I'm pretty sure I know which episode they're talking about, and parts of the Queen's Gambit. And of course you have, Dinner Debonair, MJF and Chris Jericho. It makes sense because it's an unlikely place that you would have imagined such a great scene or a great show to, seen something very entertaining.
Yeah. What about you, Mike? Would you add them a part of the best 2020 when you kind of see what other things were kind of named for this year? You would give them credit for being a part of this list?
So I think that it was writer biased.
Okay.
Very easily.
Yeah.
Why that showed up on this type of list is kind of head scratching.
Yeah.
I tell you, when I first opened the article up and I start reading it, I'm like, where the fuck is this going? Because I'm just reading like all this entertainment stuff for the first 4 or 5 stanzas, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Listen, it was a unique thing. The interesting thing too that the writer did was he didn't mention Jericho until like a good 2/3 of the way through.
Right.
He referred to it basically as MJF's song and
Right.
dance number, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, he titled his name that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, what is going on there. I have no idea who this writer is.
Sure.
But I would argue to say that yes, it was entertaining. It was a great concept. It was very original. So is Firefly Funhouse.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
I mean, that's something that we've never seen anyone do in wrestling. So, yeah, it's, but then I looked at some of the other stuff on the list too, and it's like I wouldn't pay attention to half that shit anyway.
Sure. I will say this. This is coming back to him. Like, it sounds like there's really maybe some hate here. He says some weeks the athleticism at this professional wrestling startup is more exciting than anything happening in Vince McMahon's empire. Wow, for real? That's how you're going to start off the sentence? Okay. And then here we go. And no one in WWE has the kids' combination of dictation, which is Juilliard by way of Long Island, intensity or cheesiness either. Listen, we like MJF. We give MJF his credit, okay? But wow, I mean, that's just to start off those two sentences, just shitting all over WWE, to put MJF over in this, best of 2020 in the New York Times was just really shocking to me. It was like, wow.
Think of it like this.
Yeah.
Think of it like this. MJF in himself, he is a very talented young guy, right?
Yeah.
So AEW is not making him better. He's making AEW better.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's so good naturally and so driven and thinks outside the box, I would argue to say that if he was on Vince's product,
Mm-hmm.
you would be seeing the startings of the next Rock or John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
So the elevation that Vince's product gives you allows you to go onto superstardom in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
This was a song and dance number in the middle of a show that the fans think is the greatest wrestling program out there.
I love how you take the opportunity to say that.
Well, it's true, but
yeah.
and Chris Jericho's quote in this thing that was
which I was getting to next.
Yeah, go ahead and read that.
Yeah, he says, once again, it's proof that pro wrestling comes in many shapes and forms, but the most important thing is that it entertains. And then it goes on to bash Louisville dipshit times. But I will say this. Let's think about, and I'm sorry, Mike, because you weren't finished, but I will say, at least in Chris Jericho, at least he gives props to the entire wrestling sort of company, organization. He didn't say, well, this is AEW's best. He says, proof that pro wrestling comes in many shapes and forms, and that it entertains. So that keeps it, and I thought that was a good way of putting it in that, in his tweet. But continue on that though.
Well, you made that follow up with the fact that the Louisville Times basically thought it was one of the more horrendous things that they've ever seen.
Yeah, and he said they're still whining about it.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, in essence, what is the good thing about these platforms that, these writers have is that they can take things they like or dislike and criticize them.
Yeah.
That's what the whole thing is. I mean, so, because you could look on that list and you could argue that any of those things weren't as valid as this guy sees them.
Right.
So, I mean, look at Simon Street. I mean, his opinions are usually, like the Louis Dipshitville Times.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Hey, it is what it is, man.
But you know what? I will say this, and it's just only focusing in on My Shadow and Me, or whatever, the one that we saw with MJF. I will say that I've had people who don't watch a stitch of wrestling and who have made derogatory comments in my youth about wrestling talk about, wow, I saw a clip of this Broadway. I thought it was Saturday Night Live because it was so well put together. And I thought it was a musical. Have you heard about it? And I kind of told them it's just a segment on the show. It made me wonder, I would love to see a wrestling musical, wrestling show musical. I would just want to see it just one time. Disney does it all the time. I know you guys are going to just set the hell up, but I'm just saying, I would like to see from start to finish a musical movie made by Disney. It's probably better than the Netflix shit that we saw.
Right.
Well, the only reason why I say is because Netflix came up with an NXT movie, which was okay. But I'm saying Disney because, they are the masters of musical numbers. So, that would be cool to see some shit.
Disney came up with an NXT movie?
No, you totally just... Anyway, let's go to the next one. I'm sorry I even brought it up.
That is what he said, right, DJ?
No, I said Netflix came out with an NXT movie. I said that was okay. Yeah. But if Disney came out with a musical wrestling movie...
What did Netflix do that was an NXT movie?
It had about to do with a little kid that got a luchador mask, and it was just like I forget what it's called. Basically this kid was wrestling like real NXT roster characters. Like I watched it with my kid. It was okay. It wasn't bad. You probably don't know it even exists. So why am I even going? Why am I even describing?
No, I was just curious because I vaguely that you described it now kind of heard about it maybe, but
yeah,
okay.
Well,
you're gonna make me look up the name now. Okay, it's called The Main Event. That's what it's called, The Main Event. It was this year. It didn't make the list of 2020 standouts in this article, but it was The Main Event, and it's a good kid show. You'd like it. Just put on your little luchador mask. I know you have in your room. Watch it. Some popcorn. Feel right at home, buddy.
Unless it has a tiger in it on Netflix, I don't watch it.
All right, over to our third topic, which is from healbynature.com, titled Triple H says WWE is open to working with other promotions. Now, it states that the game explains that while WWE's doors are, quote, open for business, end quote, they are looking for long-term benefits and not just an unnecessary crossover. He later asked that the chairman, Vince McMahon, is open to anything if it means good business. And so, I guess it's fair. Let me just kind of read a little bit of what Triple H says. It says, we're open for business in a lot of ways and a lot of things. People's thoughts and misperceptions, their perceived knowledge of what we do and how we think is often greatly misinterpreted and not accurate. We are open to the right business opportunities. Yeah, at any given time, we're open to things. It just depends on what they are and if they're beneficial to us in the long term. When I say long term, I don't mean 3 months, I mean 10 years. Long term, that's how we think. We're not necessarily worried about minute by minute. Open for business. I think Vince says a lot of things, and I've been around him long enough that if it's the right thing and meaningful to the business, he's open to anything. Okay, so guys, of course, this was brought out because of the crossover that we have with AEW and Impact. And, I don't even remember at some point in our podcast kind of mentioning that at times I wouldn't have mind seeing crossovers happening, mainly with, of course, WWE. But Michaels, interestingly enough, actually kind of said the same words that Triple H would say, and that is, how will that benefit WWE? And the reality of it is, I think it could benefit both. But who definitely would gain more would be the other organization. I mean, hands down. I mean, when you're the top, it's not like you're going to go further up, but at the same time, I think it could create some very interesting, something interesting that could bring, dollars to you. And, and I'm sure if everything is worked out, if it's talked about, even with WWE, however it's all dealed on paper, if it's 60-40 WWE get or 70-30, any other organization talked about it, I don't see why that would not be a bad thing. And I'm just curious, what do you guys think about this whole crossover? I mean, Triple H says he's open to it if it's long term. Now, he says 10 years. I doubt that, but I don't think it's going to be 3 months either. What do you think about having crossovers? I mean, I don't know if this is what we're seeing. I mean, there's always been, of course, New Japan and ROH or Impact. So we kind of always had that, but nothing in terms of WWE, AEW, Impact, or ROH. The main ones kind of doing a crossover, to the extent that we're seeing now. So what do you think? I mean, do you think there's a chance of this ever happening to WWE, or it would just be something Vince McMahon would just be like, although Triple H say, yeah, he'll be up for it if it sounds good, you kind of think, yeah, he's probably really not up for it. What do you think?
I guess I'll go.
Yeah.
There's only 3 of us this week, man.
There's only 3. I don't have to count. All right. You know what? To be honest with you, I think the way that, Triple H said was perfectly. I mean, and it's always been the standpoint of how WWE does business. It's smart, long term. It does need to be long term, because if the investment isn't there, and it's not something that's going to benefit WWE, and it's not something that they can, span over a couple of years, and it's not worth it. I mean, the biggest thing was the whole Saudi deal. That was long term. That wasn't a one-time deal. And even though there wasn't a crossover per se with talent, although you had, was it Mansoor? But really, that was like something that WWE was working on already, I believe, before that came through. But again, that's the closest thing we will have to what Paul said, or Triple H said. It got to be long term. They're the ones cutting the biggest check. They're the one with the biggest piggy bank. You name one promotion that's going to be able to match dollar for dollar at the table to start something that's crossover.
So if that is the point, okay, and this is what I'm saying, if that's the point where we know that they are the top, then why even say that we are open to working? Because if you're saying you're open, then, and you know that they already have everything they possibly need to crush everyone else, you either not open or you are open. He's saying they are open, but I have yet to ever hear, and maybe you guys let me know if I'm wrong. Have you ever heard in this since WWE has been in existence that there were talks or possibilities of some crossover to happen ever?
I'm pretty sure there's stuff that's come on the table, but again, it's one of those things to where, think about it.
Well, Dave Meltzer didn't find out for it if that was the case.
I'm not talking about in the last 10 years, but I'm sure in the past there's been stuff that's come up on the table, but I'm just telling you, it's never going to pan out. It's just never going to pan out.
Matt Michaels, go.
Have you guys totally forgotten that the WWE were the ones who had ECW on their fucking show and they worked with them?
But that was after they bought them. Didn't they buy them?
No.
I thought they bought them.
1996, 97, that era when ECW showed up on Monday Night Raw, and they set up that the pay-per-view where Lawler was at their pay-per-view. This is
I'll be honest with you. I never knew. I knew that happened, but it never even occurred to me.
I remember that happening.
Crossover.
I remember that happening. But what was the end term? What, 2 years later?
The end term?
Yeah.
The end term was very simple. Vince McMahon was the one who kept ECW in business because he knew that by doing so, that would create still the just enough attention, enough competition, enough development, because that's what they needed to stay in competition with WCW.
That's what I was saying. That long term, that was a long term deal.
So is that the only time you can think of that happened?
That's the only time that they really sincerely needed it. In terms of if they didn't work out something with them, WCW could easily, the way WCW was already getting Mysterio and Guerrero and Benoit and all those guys. And at that point too, without ECW getting exposure on WWE TV, the potentiality of ECW making it for their first pay-per-view would have never happened. So Vince was smart enough to see that this wasn't competition. This was a way to help neutralize the other company, which was your competition. But if you think about stuff like this goes back in wrestling decades. You had the relationship between Japan and USA. All right. In the long term, the reason you did that is because when you had territories, you only had X amount of time for stars to be viable in terms of your heels, essentially, to face guys like Bruno Sammartino. Right. So if you had, X, Y, and Z you've gone through now within 2 years, you need other kind of threats. So you would get someone from, Japan to come over, work some kind of program, but you would also send your guys over there in return. So they would get exposure and it would build your brand in Japan. Dating right into the fact that a lot of people don't realize that Hulk Hogan was sent over to Japan to build the brand.
Yep.
So hooking up with other companies is not a new idea. It's something that if they were to say that they weren't open to potentially listening,
be bad for business.
Yeah, it's bad for business. Exactly. Also, you have to take into consideration what is the level of necessity to do a crossover. So right now, the WWE has 3 programs a week that are on television.
And 1/4, technically, if you count NXT UK.
Yeah, and you got that product as well. So does it benefit them bringing in, let's say they bring in guys from ROH, right? What does that do for them in terms of bumping their exposure? You know what it does? It makes the marks go, oh, look, it's Jay Lethal on TV on WWE. This is fucking awesome. Jay Lethal gets pinned. Oh, fuck WWE. They just brought him in to job out.
That's a very good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. I was going to add to that ECW thing real quick. What I thought you were talking about was because, I remember it, and I had to look it up, but in 2003, WWE acquired the rights for Extreme Championship Wrestling, the trademarks, the video library, and everything. I thought that when you talked about that date back in 97, 98, that was that long purpose of, okay, we're going to do this with this amount of time, so that way later on we could go ahead and do it. And that's when Vince was really starting to look at catalogs as it's important to have that, because you can make money off of stuff that they were making money of a long time ago. You know, those catalogs are central. Yeah, that's what I thought at first.
It's part of it. I think the overall goal in general for Vince at a certain point was that he wanted to do a network, let's face it.
He did.
So that's what it comes down to. Acquiring stuff was very important. But ironically enough, if you look at it, the relationship, remember, he didn't really have a relationship with Paul Heyman. So that relationship that was started up in essence to potentially combat WCW not only got you the video library and the rights to it down the line, but has also established a working relationship of like 25 years with Paul Heyman.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, you want to play the long game. That relationship worked out really, really nice, you know? So
bottom line is, we're not going to get any crossovers.
Well,
I mean,
and that's only if, I mean, like I got to be honest. I mean, unless one of the, say, the entities of possibility, if there's even any, like ROH, okay, or an Impact, okay, unless they're willing to get in bed with WWE for a long extended period of time of 5 years or more. Do you see what I'm saying? That's a huge commitment for somebody coming in with a small piggy bank. And that's no disrespect to ROH or Impact. I'm just saying.
Well, and the other thing too is, so realistically, why are you going to do a deal with one of those companies when the contract runs out of a certain wrestler? You can just offer them a contract and sign them.
We're going to get them anyways. That's what they say.
Right. Right. Think of it that way. So unless it's on the table where they have let's say the TNA library, right? Hey, and they've done leasing with them. So they've been able to show certain things on the network for certain documentaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, let's say that Impact, they realize, hey, we're really running at a loss here and we need to do something. They could reach out to Vince and say, hey, we'll give you all our catalog, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, if you're willing to use some of our talent in NXT. That kind of deal is the thing they would cut.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're the other thing too, we don't know what the deal is with Impact and AEW.
We don't.
So, like I said, for all we know, it could come down to the fact where in potentially getting someone like Don Callis involved in their fold, they in turn have to help out Impact a little bit. Then that's what that's centered on. And again, I think that the grandiose thoughts of wrestling fans just immediately start booking all these matches. And the truth of the matter in today's society of wrestling is that realistically, those matches could potentially happen at any point because contracts expire and people sign everywhere at this point.
Right.
So, I don't know. Sometimes when these questions get thrown out like that, it's just like, what did you expect Triple H to say? Oh no, we're above that. We're not going to consider that. Only losers who need the help, bolstering the product. No, they're a business, man.
Well, and also too, if you look at Paul with NXT, right? I mean, that's a program that benefits greatly from a lot of acquisitions whose contract have come up for a long time ago. So he always wants to leave the door open, but with certain provisions that need to be looked at. It's just better business. But I agree with you. A lot of Super Saiyan marks get super excited with their fantasy booking. I always tell them all, like, look, I love your enthusiasm. Go pick you up a WWE 2K game. Don't pick up 20 because it sucked, but get 19 or something below that. Create you a character of who you want, like we all did when we were teenagers, but you're still grown doing it. Because I used to put AJ Styles in 2000, it was like 2K15, or even before that, putting him in there because I want to see him and Samoa Joe. And just like Michael said, where did they end up? WWE.
Yeah. Well,
let's talk about the bigger issue here.
Okay.
The fact that Street decided that he's now going to refer to Hunter as Paul.
Because are you guys on a one-on-one relationship that I don't know about?
Look, I tell you what. All right.
He didn't tell us about it, and we're trying to get to that level.
Look,
you know Paul.
No, I'm just gonna say, look, at the end of the day, you got to dress for the part that you want, and that's what happened eventually. It didn't happen in a day, okay? And you know, I'm trying to make some upward movable ladder steps. You know, no, actually, I just happened to say it. I'm just saying it because they said in the goddamn article they said Paul. That's why I repeated it. I don't know Paul from other Paul that lives around the corner, probably. Shit,
stay at the lower rung, man. Stay at the lower rung because the last
they'll probably devour me. They'll devour me.
Yeah, the last thing we want to do is go around disrespecting guys like Triple H by using his real name when it's you don't know him.
I was only saying it because the article said it like 4 or 5 times. I actually read the article and it said it like 4 or 5 times. So.
Yeah, well, that's also like
writing school.
Well, and someone who is an official reporter and has credentials.
So what you're saying is I'm not official enough to refer to the great Paul.
Yeah.
You know what? I stand down. My apologies. I will know my place.
There you go.
Will know my place.
So stop making us look
now.
bad.
Now, what we can't talk about is the fact that him and his wife don't wear wedding rings.
That is very interesting. I've seen that a lot. That's very interesting.
I thought we was about to get back into H's good presence, but you just knocked us right back out again. Thank you, Michaels, for that. I appreciate it.
He could take it, though. He could take it. Take it.
Oh, guys, that's our 3 count for tonight. I'm going to let you guys give your final thoughts for the week, but I want to thank everybody for hanging out, listening to us on our live feed and, sending in comments and everything. We thank for the folks that still hanging out with us. We love it, and sending us comments during the show as well. If you actually read an article that you would like for us to talk about in 3 count, you can always just tag it to our social media and say, hey, take a look at this and talk about that. You also can send it to our email, which is Vegas Bad Boys with a Z of podcasting @gmail. I know it's a long title, but it'll get to us. And again, for everyone listening to us on our podcast, thank you for listening, downloading. Just make sure you let everybody know we exist. All right. With that, final thoughts for the week. Simon Street, what you got for the people?
I just want to send a big happy birthday shout out to our very own Vegas Bad Boy, Sin City Steve.
Yeah.
May you have a very delightful winning birthday. And we look forward to having you back next week as usual. Also, too, as what Sin City Steve would always say, he would say big shouts out and much respect for all those that defend our freedoms overseas or also in the armed forces, especially our boy Stormin' Mormon, and also Rep Sports. I don't know what he usually says. I think it's REPP. Sorry, I screwed that up, but Rep Sports is our proud sponsor. This is why he does it and I don't, but I had to say it.
And you have to enter the code. What?
You have to. It's Vegas.
Yeah, there you go.
I got that, Vegas. And also, too, ladies and gentlemen, with COVID rates going up and in all of this in the air, just make sure that you, for freaking Pete's sake, just wear a condom, because the worst thing you could do is just make more babies. I'm just saying. So That's all I'm saying.
All right, man. Michaels, what you got, man?
I'll take that a step further.
Okay.
Get snipped. If Simon Street would have listened to my advice, he would have been in a better situation in terms of no.
He would have moved up from cornflakes to frosted flakes. I understand.
Yeah.
That sounds like a drug reference.
And this week, try watching something that you haven't watched before. Step outside of your comfort zone. Watch something that maybe that you haven't had the time or have heard about, maybe you're interested in. Just step outside of that comfort zone and watch something new. I definitely suggest the movies where they're shitting on each other. It's the best kind of porn out there, so please.
I was like, what movie are they shitting on each other?
Oh, a lot of movies, man. You got to check this shit out. It's amazing.
So is it like just rapid, like firing shit on each other?
Oh, it's if you Japanese women, for whatever reason, really like to have themselves filmed where the other girl's just shitting in their mouth, man.
Oh,
it's
Jesus.
Like straight yogurt, yogurt out of the dispenser.
Oh my
That's
God.
pretty much what it looks like. Yep.
Guys, thank you for listening, and we will see you back next week. Don't forget, tomorrow, Wednesday, the Falco Files. Make sure you listen and tune in, all right? Until then, we're